Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope y'all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talk and they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in. Here gonna show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
It's all about that BS, baby.
What's up, BSers?
We are back.
We are. It took a week hiatus, but we're back in the studio.
Refreshed.
Like we never left. Fred, Scott, Ryan, and James in the studio as Drew has the night off.
Keeps his COVID butt at home. Not that he has COVID. No, we're just kidding.
I don't know if COVID can be used as an excuse as vacation, but he's taking a hiatus this week. He's going to be commenting in the chat room like he used to.
Putting some work in on the chat room, like good old days.
For sure. We got a lot to talk about on this week's show. We're going to talk about the Ravens continuing to have some changes on the coaching staff, some coming, some going, kind of continuing things that have been happening over the past couple of weeks. We've gotten some clarity, at least the bottom end, of what the salary cap number is going to look like,
right?
At least the floor of the cap. Talk about that. We're going to put our Eric DaCosta hat on, look at some free agency rumors out there that have been kind of swirling around social media.
Quite a few interesting ones. I'm curious to get your takes on that.
Yeah, for sure. Terps football continuing to recruit, bringing in some key pieces. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Hoop Squad starting to get things together at the right time, playing some of their best basketball this season. So we're talking about that. Speaking of season, spring training underway.
Yes.
Down in Florida with the Birds. Full squad reported as of today. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as they bring in yet another former all-star pitcher. That would have been a good signing maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit about that, whether that was right or not. And we got some stolen items, some kids heckling, and NASCAR winners in this week's rundown. So an instantly shake thing on things. But before we do too much with this show, I do want to say our thoughts and prayers and well wishes are out with Tiger Woods right now. Right before the show, a couple hours before the show, news had come out that he was in a terrible car accident. Sounds like non-life-threatening injuries. He rolled his car apparently off an embankment or off a hill
or something. Look,
he's in surgery.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
He's in surgery. Look, I
Injuries
don't know.
to his legs.
They're saying multiple injuries to both legs.
Yeah.
He obviously already has back problems. Depending on how severe these injuries are, I mean, the fact that they immediately put him in surgery,
right,
makes you curious, right? Part of it may be money because he's got the money to be able to do it, but part of it could be the seriousness of the injuries.
Right.
And so I don't know that I can say with any confidence that I can see Tiger Woods ever playing golf competitively again at a high level. It may, maybe in like the seniors tour after recovery and stuff like that.
It's early. It's early. We hope that, it's not as severe as it sounds, but right now it doesn't look good.
It's also early, but worth pointing out. There's some concerning pieces to this. And I'm not going to, there are no facts that I'm saying that this is the case, but there's some things that are pointing things in a negative direction. It was a single car collision, just him, really early in the morning.
Right.
Out of nowhere. We know Tiger has a history.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say it. I was sitting here thinking it with you, but I wasn't going to say it.
I wasn't either, but I understand.
Him falling asleep in a car and being woken up by some police, so I hope it's not involved.
I hope not either. We're not speculating or anything like that. It's
just it's interesting that the facts are coming out where you're not hearing one way or the other from the media or from anybody close to the situation. So it's a little weird that we're not getting a lot of those details. Usually that would be something that could come out like that. But
regardless, first and foremost, his health is what's most important. We hope that he has a speedy recovery. Hope he gets through this okay. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about on the show. But before we do, I want to remind you, if you've ever been injured at work or in an auto accident and weren't sure who to call, 855-MD-CRASH. The Maryland Personal Injury Attorneys, it'll have your back. If you find yourself in that unfortunate situation like I have a couple of times, give our team at MD Crash a call right away. We all know the costs of medical bills, lost wages, pain and suffering. It all adds up quickly and can potentially put you in a bad financial place. Well, if you want a team that'll handle your case, big, small, doesn't matter, and just give you some peace of mind, save this number now, 855-MD-CRASH. It's 855-632-7274. Be sure to follow them on Facebook for some fun giveaways, including tickets and gift cards to some local restaurants. All right, Scott, it is time for some Ravens flock talk, which before we do dive into this too much, we do want to make an announcement. I don't know for you fans out there of the show that don't stay for the entire show because you guys are just Raven fans only or whatever it may be. Fan of the show, Garnett West. You follow him on Twitter at Garnett. Not even sure what his Twitter tag is.
I think it's just at Garnett West. Garnett West 27 maybe. He's
going to be calling into the show during the after hours. He's got some things going on with work, but he wants to talk some wide receiver talk with us, so that'll be fun, getting him involved in the show. So make sure you guys come back for the after hours portion of the show, 9:45, 10 o'clock-ish, I'm assuming. We'll probably be around there. It's usually about where we are.
At Garnett 478.
Right, okay. But, all right, so let's dive into some of the coaching changes that took place this week. As former running back coach Matt Weiss is now gone.
Right.
Headed to the University of Michigan to be their new quarterback coach. That's now the 9th coach that has left the Ravens organization in the offseason. Some of this was expected. Some of this we knew was going to happen. Some of this we wanted. We wanted to see some change. You know, obviously there was a lot of question marks around, you know, the offense and Greg Roman and scheme and all that stuff. And if you're not going to make the change with Roman, we needed to see some changes. And we saw that with the new wide receiver coach, the new pass game coordinator, things like that. But Matt Weiss, you know, you're talking about a record-setting running game. You know, that's a big loss for this Ravens team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a guy that you look at what he's been able to do with the run game and the guys that we've had, the guys that we brought in, you know, the development very quickly that was J.K. Dobbins, right?
Yeah.
You know, Justice Hill didn't square out exactly how we wanted it to, but that situation could be, you know, carry somewhat. Obviously, the trust in Mark Ingram, but then the obvious transition. You would imagine that he played a role in saying, like, look, we got to feed J.K. more than we're feeding Ingram. I understand we're paying Ingram, but Ingram's not getting us anywhere. And you know, he maybe had some inside looks as what that running back room looked like, and so losing that value and that control in that running back room, I'm not going to say it's disconcerting. Yeah. But it's just something. It's something to watch. Yeah. Something for us to watch in the future.
I know a lot of the players, including running back Gus Edwards, had nothing but glowing things to say about Weiss on his way out, saying that, you know, University of Michigan's getting a great one. So it's going to be a miss, you know, for the players. But it didn't take long for the Ravens to have a contingency plan in place, as they ended up promoting longtime Ravens offensive assistant Craig Versteeg as the new running back coach. He actually joined the Ravens staff with Harbaugh back in 2008. So he's been with the team for quite a bit.
He knows Harbaugh. He knows the system that we're running. He knows everything that's going on. So hopefully, like I said, it'll be something to watch, but it should be for a guy like him, a plug and play type situation. He should be able to jump straight in and pick up where Weiss left off. And in all reality, maybe even because of his experience and being around, you know, and being around guys like a Ray Rice who did well, that can help translate to some of these other guys.
Right.
You know, give JK a little bit more experience, a little bit of you know, pep talks at times, things like that. So
no, that's very true. That's very true. So today on social media, I was on Twitter for a little bit when I was coming over here to do the show, and I saw some
not
rumblings.
on social media and driving at all.
No, not at all. Safety first, kids. Listen, there hasn't been a whole lot of Ravens talk really for the last couple weeks on social media. Not a ton. It's just been the same recycled stuff for the last couple weeks, and everybody's doing their mock drafts and whatnot. So today I hop on and I look around, and there's some rumblings around Willie Snead. I'm like, what the hell is going on with Willie Snead? So Willie Snead put out some interesting comments today, some interesting tweets that's got Ravens fans a little up in arms, some agreeing on his side, some not.
And I'm going to preface the tweets that you're about to read with a tweet that he actually had last week, which was that he's going to do what's right basically to feed his family. He's going to do what's right for his family.
Yeah.
So there was already a cryptic tweet there, and then today things just kind of blew up.
Yeah, I fully respect Willie Snead and going through the free agency process and doing what's best for him and his family and all that stuff. Like, I have no qualms with that. It's just some of the stuff, these guys are starting to get voices and starting to speak out on social media. And Willie put out a tweet today and he said, any receiver can be a true number one if they are in a system that allows them to be. What they do after that is on him. 100. So followed that up after that. Hollywood Brown retweeted it with 100, so he agreed with Willie Snead on that. Willie Snead follows that up with no shade, just facts. Then, when somebody calls him out on it, this is a fan calling out Willie Snead. The tweet from the fan read, laugh out loud, no, a true number one is based off talent. Guys like Devontae and D-Hop and even young guys like A.J. Brown are true number one because of their talent. You were a number one on the Ravens by default, but not anyone could be a true number one. That was what a fan wrote. You give any receiver 100-plus targets, if they're worth a damn, they'll be considered a number one because they've had plenty of opportunities to show it. If you're going to talk, speak facts, not name drop. Here's the thing.
There's a lot to digest
There's a lot to digest with that, and I don't have a problem with Willie Snead speaking out and putting his feelings out on social media. I'm okay with that.
Nick Short, he's a free agent. We can't cut him.
Yeah. I don't necessarily 100% agree with him, though, because
Even a little bit.
the way that tweet or those tweets are worded is that anybody could be a true number one receiver if they're given the opportunities. That's not true. The number one wide receivers, I hate the term number one wide receiver to begin with. I've been saying that for years. I can't stand it, but if we're going to go down this road, that's the problem with true number one receivers. Everybody's definition of true number one receiver can be different. In my eyes, a true number one receiver are guys like the Devontae Adams, the Stephon Diggs, these guys that separate themselves and create opportunities and maximize those opportunities. Yes, you can force feed any wide receiver of your choosing 100 targets if you choose to do so, but what are you getting out of that wide receiver? That's what makes somebody a number one wide receiver. It's the guys like Devontae Adams who know they're going to be doubled, who know they're going to be going up against the best corners, but yet still can create separation, can still make the plays, can still catch the fucking football at an alarming rate when the ball's thrown to you.
Yes.
That is what a true number one wide receiver is, in my opinion. I'm not saying that this offense, let's talk about the Ravens offense in general, right? Could Willie Snead be more productive in this offense if he's given more opportunity? Yep. I think Hollywood Brown could be more productive in this offense, just talking statistically.
Right.
Could be more productive in this offense if he's given more opportunity. I agree with that. But I don't agree with Hollywood Brown, Willie Snead, Miles Boykin, anybody on this roster would be a true number one wide receiver if you put them with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, if you put them with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. They are not what the true definition of a number one wide receiver is, which is somebody who can create separation, use their body to their advantage, and make plays even when they're guarded.
So I think you hit the nail on the head. And when it comes to number one wide receivers, there's another thing that goes into it. It's a 4-letter word. Work.
Yeah.
That's what some of it is gifted talent for guys. I get that.
And I'm never going to question Willie Snead's work ethic. I'm not going to question anybody's work ethic because I don't know what their work ethic is.
I don't know, but here's what I do know. Did we hear about Willie Snead going down in the offseason and practicing with Lamar Jackson?
We didn't hear about it, no.
Okay. But we heard about that with Hollywood Brown. Okay. We don't know that he's necessarily
both
a true
in
guy.
the Florida area, COVID. There were a lot of things this year that could paint the picture.
I didn't hear about it last year.
Snead's never been a number one.
Willie,
anywhere.
No, he hasn't.
No, Willie Snead, I love
And he
you,
would
man.
never be a number one.
Yeah.
But the issue is you talk about it, and it has everything to do with work. And I'm not going to question his work ethic, but I don't see him putting forth the extra mile. That's what number ones are able to do, is they put forth the extra mile. Some of them, absolutely, you're 100%. They have a raw talent. DeAndre Hopkins has a raw talent, period.
Right.
But when you also look at him, he puts in the work. Guys say he's like the first man in, he's the last man out. He's working with whatever QB he's working with.
Right.
He was down there working with Kyler. It was there. It was obvious. Willie Snead, it was also the first one to mouth off last year about not getting enough receptions. Well, maybe if you'd stop dropping the ball every 4 throws, that wouldn't happen. Do you get yards after the catch? You are one of the best at yards after the catch, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
But the other thing
On this roster.
But the other thing this year is Willie Snead wasn't creating separation.
He never has. That's been part of his downfall. Is he's never been one to be able to create separation.
He's a guy that is nobody's going to call him a number one because of is he a talented athlete? Absolutely. But does he have that raw, natural talent that you look at when you see a guy that's drafted early? No, he doesn't. Could he work? Did he work to get where he got at? Yes. Don't be mad because there's other guys that don't have to put in the work, or if they do, they're just that much better because they're big body physical guys that can go up and pinpoint the ball.
That's my point. The true number one is the complete package, right? They're the guys that use their body like a power forward does in basketball to kind of create positioning to be able to go up and win those 50-50 balls. Those 50-50 balls become 75-25 balls with those true number one receivers. They're the guys that can beat you with their football IQ. They're the guys that can beat you with the double moves. They're the guys that run route trees to perfection.
They're watching their opponent's footwork,
right,
and looking at that.
And there's really only a handful of guys in the league. I'd say there's probably 10 that I would me personally that I would classify as true number one receivers. Are there good receivers out there? Yes. Tyreek Hill, I think he's a good wide receiver. I don't think that he's a true number one receiver. I think he's a good wide receiver in a great system with a great quarterback.
So there's an interesting twist to this story that James showed us before, and we're having some of the fans chime in. Some people, Jamal, Craig, they're saying that they don't feel that tweet was about him.
And Jamal, you could be right. He said, I don't think Snead was talking about himself as being the number one. No, I don't think he was talking about himself, but what he was saying is that in the way I took it,
everybody can be a number one wide receiver.
Anybody could be a number one wide receiver if they're given opportunities, and that's wrong. That's just flat out wrong. There are people in this league that are just more athletically gifted, have better physical traits, and that are just a better overall receiver. Even in high school, we had multiple receivers that did different things, that brought different facets to the game. I could force feed 100 balls to each one of those receivers. I'm going to get different results from each one of those receivers. Right. Just because they're given opportunity doesn't mean that they're maximizing on it, and doesn't mean that they're going to create the plays off of it. Go ahead, James.
Two things. I think there's two different types of number ones. You got the number ones that are just gifted, like the DK Metcalfs and Adams and Michael Thomas. But then you got the ones that are like Jerry Rice. He says he's not the fastest, but he knows how to run the routes.
Yeah.
When you know how to run the routes, you get open, you become that number one. There's two different number ones, and right now we don't have any of that.
And that's the problem, is that it's not one attribute, right? If it was just speed that made somebody a true number one wide receiver, Hollywood Brown, Hollywood would be fine. But that's not the case. Like it's a total package. And like I said, in my opinion, there's about 10 of them in the league. Go ahead, Ron.
I do want to disagree with you on one point. I do think that a lot more people, not everybody, but a lot of people can go be Aaron Rodgers number one. We saw that with Jordy Nelson. The second Jordy Nelson left there, I knew he was done.
The production that you're going to get out of those guys, yes, every team has a quote-unquote number one wide receiver by default.
Yeah.
But the production you're going to get out of the Devontae Adams versus a
Nelson.
Willie Snead, if he's in that number one, it's varying by a large margin.
They play a different receiver game.
It takes a completely different person to go be Mitch Trubisky's number one, which is why we all want Allen Robinson, because Lamar might not be the greatest accurate passer. He's been dealing with that his whole career, and he's still great.
Right.
If you want to go take Kenny Galladay, I love Galladay, but Matthew Stafford's a hell of a quarterback, so he might be stepping back when you're talking about the passing game. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I think the other thing too that when you're looking at the full situation and what he may be talking about, Dez, and that's what I was alluding to. James showed us before the show is that Dez tweeted out, that he agreed with him and was speaking from experience, and it was no bad blood, but they're just saying this wasn't designed. So there's kind of a flip side to this in that your receivers aren't happy, right? What have we talked about is going to lead to the success of this offense? It's having a balanced attack.
Right.
If you don't have the guys that are willing to do it, and a guy that caught, let's not knock Willie Snead in the sense that yes, I get it. He's never really been a number one, but he was productive when Drew Brees was his quarterback. Right. It's a different style. It is a different system. I think there is something to be said that this system takes a certain type of wide receiver.
Oh, and we've all known that, right? It takes a
but how do we know it and they don't?
Well, we forgot to draft Metcalf and got Hollywood Brown instead, so it makes sense.
Is Metcalf as productive under this offense as he is there?
Because he's going to lay a block on every run that would make him worth it in our system.
Is Metcalf the receiver in this offense that he is in Seattle? No.
That's what I'm saying.
Because it's a different offense.
Right, exactly. That's my point.
Does Metcalf have more success in this offense than Hollywood Brown?
Yes. Oh, 100%. Yes.
I think he might have more touchdowns here, too. He's not going to have the yardage. Well, because you're going to block down all the way down the field and then be a giant red zone target.
I mean, not only is he a deep threat.
In fairness, over the last 2 years, there's only like 3 or 4 wide receivers that have more receiving touchdowns than Hollywood Brown in the last 2 years.
But when it comes to DK, if we're bringing up DK, the thing about DK is DK has most facets of his game. One of the things we heard was just the route running wasn't the cleanest, right? But he's got blow by you speed. I mean, the man ran 90 yards to tackle a guy from getting into the end zone. That was
unreal,
right? Then you have the fact that he's able to high point the ball in the middle of the field. He's able to high point the ball in the corner. He's able to take it over the middle and be physical. Yep. He has, I think about baseball and I think about a 5-tool player, right? And we talk about baseball rotations and you have the fifth man in the rotation. Willie Snead is like taking your number 3 in a rotation and putting him as a number 1 for the Orioles. That's kind of what's happened, right? And
you mean like what the Orioles do every year?
Kind of.
Willie
exactly.
Snead is a number 3 on any NFL team, in my opinion.
Was he a number 2 at one point? Yes, I believe so.
Yeah,
I believe in St. Louis, or not St. Louis, in New Orleans. I got Saints and New Orleans mixed up. In New Orleans, I think he peaked at a number 2, right? But I don't think he was ever a true number 1 guy.
So Alex said, this offense better do something different this year. We're going to have a mess, and everyone will be lashing out about Roman. So I think Hollywood kind of hit the nail on the head with his comment after the season, which was this passing attack, this passing game, ranked 32nd in the league. Something's wrong in that. And it's not – I'll be the first one to say it. We don't have the best wide receiving core in the NFL, but I don't think we have the 32nd ranked NFL, wide receiver core in the NFL.
Right.
There is definitely needs to be more balance in this offense, and that's what I think we're all looking to hope see change. And I think some of the new coaches, some of the new faces in there, if Greg Roman is open for conversation on designs and route running, route concepts and changing some things, that's where we'll see this offense take the next step into 2021. But again, this team isn't built to be a Kansas City. This team isn't built to be a Green Bay. We don't want to get away from our bread and butter. Our bread and butter is being a dominant, run the ball, control the clock, control time of possession team. That's what we are built on. We're still one of the most highest output offenses in the league as far as points per game. But yes, I do agree, this passing attack needs to be more involved in the offense.
And I think that's what Willie's going for. And I think it was Joe that chimed in and said, Willie getting destroyed. He put himself out there. That's the difference, is he put himself out there with these statements. And there's not a whole lot to back it up. When you have a guy, Willie Snead, you want to know what Willie Snead's great at and why he was so effective? Was because he was a third down receiver.
Right.
You get the ball to him over the middle when you got 4 yards to get. You throw him at 3 yards, and he could get you 5, 6, 7 yards and really get you that first down. That's when you're throwing. He's never been a guy that you're going over the middle on a first or second down throw. He's never been a guy that you're going really deep on, except for maybe early in his career. He's never been that with the Ravens.
Right.
That's what a number 1 can do it all. They can get deep. and go deep and get open. They can get the ball over the middle. They can be physical. You can run gadget plays with them out of the backfield.
Right.
There's ways to do it. And I'll tell you what, there are guys that are his size that are number ones.
Right.
Tyreek Hill, prime example. Tyreek Hill, we all agree, is a number one wide receiver, period.
No.
Well, Fred just said no.
He's not a true number one wide receiver. You put Tyreek Hill.
But you just talked about not using the definition of a true number one.
No. But I don't think Tyreek Hill is a true number one wide receiver. I think Tyreek Hill is a very good wide receiver in a very good offense with a very good quarterback. I don't think Tyreek Hill is the same wide receiver in another offense, even if you give him a good quarterback. I think Aaron Rodgers could get great production out of Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill's got some
pretty
raw natural talent, man.
Yeah, but he does. But what he's missing is the physical size. The physical size to be able to go up, get those jump balls that we're talking about, to be that all-around complete wide receiver. He doesn't, though. He creates his plays in separation, in space, because he's so quick. That's his thing. But that's just my opinion. That's my opinion. Everybody's opinion is different. But we're going to talk more about wide receivers. Like I said, in the after-hour show, Garnett's going to be calling in, so we're going to talk some more. He's got some interesting takes on some stuff, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Let's talk a little bit about free agency. There's been a lot of rumors going around over the last 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks since we've been on here, right? Ravens have 16 unrestricted free agents pending right now. Free agency starts in about 3 weeks. So Eric Costa, all the wheels are turning, right? Even though they're not supposed to right now, they're turning. They're trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do. First things first is figuring out how much money they're going to have to spend, right? What's this cap going to look like? Well, they officially announced the other day that the floor of the cap is going to be $180 million. So I'm assuming that means the cap number will probably be somewhere in the 188 to 190 range.
I was thinking 190 based off what I've seen before.
So that gives us even a little bit more space than we anticipated originally.
We were thinking 185, so it gives us another
so
$5
about $4 or $5, maybe $6 million more than what we anticipated, which is nice. That can get you a potential veteran signing late, that could add some benefit. There have been some rumors out there. One of those rumors, Eagles veteran tight end, Zach Ertz, is apparently going to be available. He could either be available through trade. If they can't find trade value,
release him.
They could release him, and then he hits free agency, and the Ravens have the ability to sign him. The Ravens right now are one of 5 teams that apparently have made the calls into Zach Ertz. I wanted to get your take first before I give you my opinion. Zach Ertz, he's 30 years old at this point, but coming off some injuries.
Yeah.
Been a very productive tight end in Philly. We all know how much more dynamic this passing offense was when we had 2 tight ends out there, 2 legit pass-catching tight ends. Does Zach Ertz intrigue you here in Baltimore?
So Zach Ertz intrigues me to the extent that I think he brings a good knowledge base for this tight end room, right? We already have some good things, but maybe, Zach Ertz has been pretty big in some big moments.
Right.
Maybe that could be good advice for Mark Andrews, because we've seen some struggles in big moments with him, in primetime games especially, right? When all the lights are on him. So I think that the knowledge base is there that he can bring to that room. Coming off the injuries, if he's 100%, could he be somewhat productive? Yeah, he's not going to put up the numbers that he did before. I mean, he's 30 now, so he's starting to, I'm not saying reaching his leg, but I'm sure his body's taking a physical toll at this point.
Yeah.
So I definitely think it's interesting because that combination, Boyle, Andrews, Ertz. Boyle can fall back and be that blocking tight end that we know he's great at.
The blocking tight end that we paid him to be, that can sneak out and surprise you and catch a ball when he needs to.
But I want to throw something out here based off of something we saw last year, since we're talking tight end, right? What if our third tight end is actually already on the field?
Pat Ricard.
Meaning Pat Ricard, yeah.
Yeah.
Just keep sticking with it.
I mean, look, here's the deal. If Pat Ricard, he doesn't need to be the pass catching. I think Boyle, before the injury, was doing a great job of that.
Right.
We know Pat Ricard's physicality on the line. We know that he can block. I think it's presentable. You already have him under salary. You're not going and spending anything more on salary cap. I get that you love the fact that you can move him and put him on the defensive side, and you can move him around. But I'm wondering if now's the time to let Pat Ricard move to full-time offense, whether it's fullback, whether it's getting out
he
there.
has been full-time offense.
He had about after Boyle went down, he had about 68% of the snaps last year. Prior to Boyle going down, I looked this up before I even said anything.
But that's not based on him not being available. That's based on formation. He was a full-time fullback this past year and the year before. He's been a Pro Bowl fullback. Right, so
he wasn't playing D-line is what.
He wasn't playing on the defensive side of the ball. So that's my thing with him being a number 3 tight end. I think Pat Ricard can line up as a tight end in situations. He can be a situational tight end because he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's 300 pounds. He's a fucking brute going through there with the football. Get him the ball, and he's going to hurt somebody.
Right.
But to say that he's a number 3 wide receiver, that's not his thing. Or number 3 tight end, that's not his thing. He'll be a situational.
What do we need out of a number 3 tight end? Let me ask that.
It depends. It depends on what that number 3 is. Like right now, if you go out and you bring in a Zach Ertz, right? Mark Andrews and Zach Ertz are your 2 pass threat tight ends. Then Boyle, like you said, becomes the number 3 tight end on the depth chart, but it really doesn't mean anything. But again, this offense, the way it's designed, is going to use 2 tight end sets, and sometimes they're going to line up in jumbo formation and have 3 tight ends out on the field at one time. And depending upon the situation, who's covering who, will change the assignments as to what those tight ends are doing. All 3 of them have proven over their careers they can catch the ball. Right. So all 3 of them could be a threat to catch the ball. That
kind of leads to what I was getting ready to ask you was, do you think bringing in a guy like Ertz diminishes what Boyle brought to the table pre-injury last year?
No, because again,
Boyle
is, I think it adds to it. It complements it. Boyle's number 1 job and why he got paid so well is because he's the number 1 blocking tight end in the league.
I agree.
He's an extension of a tackle that just so happens to be able to catch the fucking ball too.
I would say, but his production last year, it showed that.
His bread and butter is blocking. Zach Ertz, in my opinion, he's 30 years old. I know he's got some injuries. I think he still has a couple of good years left in him.
I think he's got some stuff left in the tank.
He's a very good pass catching threat. We all know what this offense looked like with Hayden Hurst out there. Again, Hayden Hurst didn't put up crazy stats. He only had like 400 and some yards receiving when he was out there, and he might have had like 30 or 40 catches in a year. But you put another true threat out there like Zach Ertz, all that's going to do is then benefit Mark Andrews, because right now teams are honing in on Mark Andrews, and that's why Mark Andrews had some of the struggles that he had later in the year is because people were covering him and singling him out and not allowing him.
Well, especially once Boyle went down. Yeah, that's
right. You bring in Zach Ertz and you have both of these guys out on the field. Who are you going to take out? And if you leave one of them, either one of them can be a problem. So I think it makes a lot of sense for the Ravens. Plus, I don't think it's going to cost you a ton of money. And again, we're looking at value. How much can you get out of every dollar that you spend in free agency? Because yes, we have a decent amount of cap space, but we don't have a ton. And we have a lot of internal decisions that we have to make on guys that we're going to keep or we're going to extend, and how much of that money are we going to have. So I know we're all enamored with the whole sign Allen Robinson and bring in these big number 1 receiver that we're talking about, right? That would be a great fit. And we would all love it. If we could, if the NFL was the MLB for 1 year and we could spend all the money in the world, 100% we're bringing him in, right? But we got to work within the constraints. And if you bring in an Allen Robinson, you're not doing anything else. With the
extra cap, they're probably both getting franchise tagged anyway. Allen Robinson
more than likely.
And Galladay won't even be available because of this extra cap room.
More than likely.
My opinion on Ertz real quick, it all depends how much value you can get, because frankly, he was terrible this year. His value that
much of that was him? How much of that was Carson Wentz? How much was that was the offense? How much of that was the injuries?
You saw him with multiple quarterbacks. He wasn't good with any of them. You saw him dropping balls, especially in the Ravens game. So not all of it was on the quarterback. If he's coming to Baltimore, it's got to be a real team-friendly first year. I mean, like, league vet minimum 1 year contract with a player
maybe that's all he wants.
Too,
so think about it.
Get his last contract.
Think about it.
We're such a tight end heavy offense. He could come here and prove it.
That's what I'm saying. So he's 30 years old, right? So by age, he could probably sign another 3-year deal even after this
a 1
year.
Prove it contract.
Come in here during COVID when nobody has any money to spend. Get into an offense that's going to play well to your skill set. Prove to the world that you can do it. and then sign your 3-year deal. And if the Ravens want to do that and keep him here for more than 1 year,
and he'd only have to play like a third of the snaps because he's not going to be out there for every run.
Right.
And when he's out there, there's a 50% chance of getting the ball because we don't throw to wide receivers. It's a good spot.
But that gives us a nice bridge into next year when hopefully fans are back in the stands. The NFL's making the revenue that they were making prior to COVID, and the cap number goes up significantly the following year. Then that allows us to say, all right,
who's our quarterback going to be?
If Allen Robinson gets tagged this year, like you're saying could happen, then we entertain Allen Robinson because the cap numbers increase. We have more money to spend, but yet, Zach Ertz, we are in a short window right now. We are in a small window right now of win now. So these signings that you have right now, 1 year, 2 year deals, whatever they are, better be impactful. And I think Zach Ertz can be impactful.
That's the thing is I agree with you, but when it comes to the trade market, I feel like a team is willing to overpay.
And if that's the case, then you don't overpay him.
Right.
If somebody else is going to overpay him, then let them have that.
Go.
Yeah,
let him have that. I'm just talking about I think he'd be a good fit if you can get him for the right price.
I agree. I just think that it will actually happen, like I'll be great and I'll admit that I was wrong, but I think we're living in I think we're living a little bit in fantasy land thinking that we have a shot at him because somebody's going to be willing to trade for him.
So what's the number? Let's put this on that. What's the contract number for this year?
For me, it's 7-8 million.
You think he gets 7 or 8 million?
That's
I'll
my
take
cap.
The under all day.
Under a 7.
Under.
100%. He gets more than 7.
Under.
Someone's going to overpay him.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to pay him 8, 9, maybe even 10.
But anyways, I think he's
then I don't want him anywhere near my team. If 7, I'd be okay.
Think about it. He is a pass catching tight end.
He was a pass catching tight end.
No, he is a pass catching tight end.
He is because he brought up there's so many other factors for that Eagles team.
The top end of wide receivers are getting 20-something million. Zach Ertz is going to get half of that. Somewhere between 8 and 10 million is where I think he'll be.
I think he'll get released.
But if we can get him for 7 or 8, sign him in. Sign me up. I'm for it.
Yeah.
So what's Kelsey making? I don't even know.
Well,
I don't know.
You got to.
Kelsey's probably 15 mil, I would think.
That
15,
number. That
16.
number is also assuming that he.
Then I wouldn't pay him more than 5.
That he gets released because what you're looking at is also you're going to have to give up something to get him if they're wanting a trade, right? Because he's not in free agency until they release him. Right. So they might be trying to want to get something for him and then just say, all right, we can sit on him. We'll keep him until somebody offers him.
So Kelsey is making $5.5 million with a cap hit of 8.5. I don't know how that works.
Okay, so he hasn't signed his big deal yet. Then I guess.
No, he has a big. He got paid.
It's 2021 Kelsey contract.
All right, I'll have to look more into it later. But my point in this is that now that we kind of know where the floor of the cap's going to be, there's going to be an influx in talent that hit the market.
Jason Kelsey, the center for the Eagles. My bad, guys.
I was
All
going to
wrong. Super wrong. Wrong Kelsey in the NFL.
Yeah.
Just so he gets that, but just to let you know.
I didn't want to call you an idiot, but it seemed like you were wrong on that.
I think he's going to get released because the way I see is they gave up for Wentz. They gave 2 number 3s, a 2 and a 3. Like no one's going to give up that for him. So I think he's going to end up getting released to save money on the.
Or do they keep him and let him play, and as he starts to maybe come back, then trade him earlier in the year, and then they get more value out of him. They need to get value now if they can, but I don't know. It's going to depend. They might be asking a ton. It's the Eagles organization.
I don't think
they've done some stupid shit here recently. So
yeah.
All right. So
Fred's right. 14 million.
14 million. Okay, I figured it had to be somewhere around that. All right,
5.
Let's stay home. Let's stay internal for a second. Talk about our own guy who we've talked about for the last couple of weeks, who again used social media to kind of put it out there that
I know
he wants to make a move. Orlando Brown, right? Ravens are fielding offers. Ravens are talking to teams. The asking price right now, or at least the rumor, is a first rounder.
At the minimum. That's my response.
So that's my response as well.
If we give up for just a first rounder, I probably will actually not be happy at all.
Top 15, I'm good.
I don't know. I don't think it goes that high. I think it's 20 or below. I think the ceiling is 20. I think we're lucky if we end up somewhere with a 20 to 25 pick. I think.
Oh, you think that's a low end?
That's where that's where I think we're lucky if we get that.
Just that? No, like third or fourth?
No. I'm talking about in the first round. Okay. I think that we should get at least a third rounder on top of that, in my opinion. I would not trade him for just a first rounder.
I'm okay with the low first and a third, but if we're just talking a first.
Right.
higher than that number.
Right. I want a low first.
And if you're doing that at a first, if you're getting a higher first, if you're getting higher than 20, it's that plus a fifth or a sixth rounder too.
Right.
Like his asking price, that's why unless somehow they pulled off a miraculous trade and got within the top 10, which I don't think is going to happen by any means. But if you're able to do that, then you do it.
Right.
Anything above 10, then that's where I'm saying you need a fourth, a fifth, a sixth. You need something to complement that.
So,
and if I get the 10th, if I get 10 or above,
right.
I personally, the person who loves to trade up, who says we should be trading up, I'd actually trade those two away to somebody else for 2 later rounds. Where have we found the most value in our drafts? Second and third rounds consistently.
The problem is
Somebody's
right now,
asking price would be nice for that.
if you're giving up Orlando Brown, you've got serious problems on the offensive line. You already had
name a few
problems.
teams.
You've already had problems on the offensive line going into the offseason, and that was thinking that Orlando Brown was going to be back. You lose Orlando Brown, you got to replace him in this draft. Either that or you better find somebody in free agency, but who are you going to find in free agency that's not going to cost $1 million to be able to replace an Orlando Brown, right? There's obviously we saw that former Raven Rick Wagner was released. That could be a budget-friendly guy that could come back, maybe fill in a little bit. He would not be a starter, in my opinion. He would just be a depth piece to bring back.
30 or 31 now?
Yeah, I think he's like 31 at this point. Okay. Yeah, he's in his early 30s. But if you're going to do that, now this is the draft to do it in. There's a ton of tackle depth in this draft from everything that all the experts out there are saying. There's a ton of tackle depth. So I know our buddy Ryan out there was talking about potentially trading with the Jags. Jags have a couple of picks. They're obviously going to be taking their franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence early in the draft. Well, they've also got another first rounder at pick number 25. I would be happy, and I agree with him, that if we can get the number 25 overall and then their third round pick, I'm good with that, because one of those 2 first round picks that we're going to have, I'm replacing Orlando Brown with.
Right.
And I'm expecting whoever that is to be a plug-and-play starter day one. We're going to need him to be.
Right.
The 25th pick. And then Joe Carlozzo's Pat Frymuth is in the third round because that's how good he is.
But then we'll have our pick, which I believe is 27th overall, right? So I'm good with giving up Orlando Brown and letting him live out his dream of being a left tackle and all that stuff. I hate to see him go because I love the guy, right? And I don't want to see any of our young talent, especially in the offensive line, go somewhere. But if we can get a first and a third, I'm listening to that.
And replace him. Yeah.
And replace him.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that. And I think you brought up, Rick Wagner being able to come in and play, the experience and working with John Harbaugh previous. I think it plays a little bit of a role, right? You think about it and you kind of know what he comes from and the guys that he's worked with, like Yanda.
Terrence
right?
bringing some logic here. This is EDC we're talking about. We're going to be okay.
Oh, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
Listen, it's the off season. We do these shows once a week. We got to fill the air with talk. We got to fill the air with
he
some
knows better
conversation.
than we do, but why can't we
100%.
talk about it a little bit?
Yeah. We got to talk about
That's
it.
why we said these are the cost of moves. It's not a worry on any of our parts. I think it's we're just saying that we need to make sure that we get the value, that it's there, and we have something going on.
So another way you do this, if you do, because the Ravens historically have always been draft best player available.
Right.
Well, if you get rid of a big piece like Orlando Brown, that puts the need on offensive line. But do the Ravens follow that MO, or do they, if there's another great edge rusher, because we need that, or if there's another, great defensive lineman, or whatever it might be, do the Ravens continue the path of drafting best player available and miss out on the tackle? Then after the draft, they got to figure out a way to make up for that. And the only way you make up for that is through free agency. And right now, the cap number is tight, right? Especially if we're bringing in a Zach Ertz or we're bringing in a wide receiver. Then it gets real tight. The only way you can do that is by creating room.
Right.
And one of those guys that a lot of people are talking about right now could be the potential release of Brandon Williams. Big fan of Brandon Williams. Love Brandon Williams. I've loved him since we drafted him. He is that true underdog story.
Except for when he came in way out of shape.
No. That wasn't him. That was Michael Pierce.
Oh, Pierce.
That was Pierce.
You're right.
But no, Brandon Williams, love his personality. Just he's a brute. He does the work. He doesn't get all the shiny stats and all that shit, but he does the work. This run defense is totally different with or without him on the defensive line.
We've seen the numbers with that.
Right. Which is part of the reason that
You want the Browns to smoke us again? Cut Brandon Williams.
and that's part of my struggle with this, right? Is that yes, if you release Brandon Williams, that creates $7.5 million in cap space, because right now his contract's a little over $14 million. It'd be about $7 million dead money on the cap, and then $7.5 million created in space. That sounds great. And they did draft a couple of defensive linemen that they're really high on. I know Justin Madubuike looked good. They got another guy, I can't think of his name right now off the top of my head, but they got another guy, another defensive lineman in last year's draft that looked okay. It's, in his spot starts. Do the Ravens do that? Do they go down that avenue? Do they draft best player available? And if the offensive lineman isn't the best player available, then do they backtrack and say, all right, well, we got to release a guy like Brandon Williams to create that $7.5 million to be able to go out and sign a veteran right tackle to replace him?
So I get where you're going. First off, I can't imagine this run defense without Brandon Williams.
Me either.
We've seen it time and time again. He makes a difference. I get that. I get we might be able to get somebody in the back end.
Devil's advocate. He's 32.
So then see if you can restructure and extend.
There's no restructuring because this is the final year.
So all right. So then see if you can give him an extension and
That's
do
where it is.
the restructure
Do you
that way.
extend, though, somebody is 32 years old?
I give him a 3-year contract.
Ugh, and have him until 35?
Let him retire a Raven.
I get that.
Let's be honest. Once Lamar's off his rookie contract, it's over for us anyway. So whatever. Push the money down the field. It's
easier said than done. The Ravens.
Okay,
they're going to be
then
bad
2
as
years,
soon as he has
right?
to sign that giant contract.
I'm looking at 3 years to be able to say, look, you've done a lot for us. You're doing a lot for us last year. We're hoping that you're going to continue to do that this year. You put in the work. So let's put the investment in you. Give him an extension, but the extension is obviously at a lower cost per year for us, that we can restructure this year's deal basically, and then the next 2 years, it's a 3-year total deal. So I guess it'll be a 2-year extension.
Right.
So he's here for the next 3 years. I think it's worth it. What he brings to the table, if you're in a win now mode, let's say your window. I mean, for all of us, I think the window is really, it's narrowing down to this year and maybe the following year, right?
To be able to win with the talent that we have right now?
Maybe the following year. So why not have him be part of that cog? I think when he's done with that and showing him that he's done after that, he's going to retire. He's going to say, I'm done. I'm good to go. Unless he's feeling frisky,
right?
Which it's B. Will, so maybe he is. But I don't know. I think a 2-year extension at the minimum to give him the next 3 years is where we're at.
Go ahead, James.
2 things. I think we should release Brandon Williams and shift to the offense going forward with our team. But second off, Eric DeCosta can play genius, and we can pull off a trade, maybe send Orlando Brown and Orlando Brown and Hollywood Brown to Seattle for DK Metcalf and a 3rd-round pick.
I mean, I'm listening.
Magic.
I'm listening, but I don't think that happens.
You never know, because
listen,
here's the offensive line.
Here's the thing that you got to keep in mind, right? We talk about Eric DeCosta and we talk about the draft history and all of that with the Ravens. The Ravens have always been good at drafting and developing defensive linemen. Like, that's been a strength of theirs for years, right? So Brandon Williams is a product of that. He's been here since day one. He was a Division I AA, or he was a low end Division I college player.
Broderick Washington is the other guy that you were talking
Broderick Washington.
about. Thank you. I figured who just said that in the chat.
Appreciate that. So I have faith that, yes, it would suck to lose Brandon Williams, and it's going to hurt this run defense, but I think he can be replaced. And I think he can be replaced already internally with some of the young talent that we have. We don't know what Justin Madubuike is going to look like total because, again, he's going from year 1 to year 2. He's going to actually have a full off season, hopefully, to be able to practice and be ready. And then Broderick Washington, he's another piece.
I get it, but that just scares me looking at the history when B. Will is not out there. These guys, even last year, the few times that he wasn't out there, there was nobody. We got ran all over.
Not as bad last year, but in years past, you're 100% right. Go ahead, Ryan.
For me, this comes back to my Turge argument that I had. Brandon Williams for the unknown of what $7.5 million could bring me. No, thank you. We have him under contract. Let him sit here. The only reason
this topic was only brought up in the hypothetical that you don't draft a replacement for Orlando Brown, and Orlando Brown is now traded to another team, and you need help on the offensive line. You can't just go out and sign offensive line help to be able to start without creating cap space.
But where are they available? That's my thing. You don't go get the money and then hope someone's available to get the player. If you are cutting him, it has to be for a specific contract you have in hand and an agreement for, like, say, I don't know an offensive lineman, but say Allen Robinson doesn't get the tag, and you have a contract that his agent has agreed to, but you're short $7 million. Go cut Brandon Williams.
That's what this hypothetical was about to be about.
But the way James put it was like, I'd rather have $7.5 million and just wave it out there and see what we can get for
James
it.
is bringing up a funny trade.
But maybe I just understood it wrong. I just want to say, you can't just be like, let's hope we do better than him.
No. The Ravens aren't that stupid. The Ravens would never just cut somebody for the sake of cutting somebody just to create space. They're going to have a plan put into place. When you see restructures happen, when you see players get cut, it's because there's a corresponding move coming.
And there's only
especially
a few
with the
players
Ravens.
I'd be okay with
you
that.
know that's happening.
I mean, an Allen Robinson or a Shaq Barrett, like there's a couple players that I'd be okay with cutting him for. It's not there aren't a ton, you know.
Right, but my point in this was just talking about offensive line because we know how many issues we had on the offensive line this year that still aren't answered. We still need a new center. We still don't know who our right guard of the future is going to be. Really, the only two spots that we're pretty good on the offensive line right now is left tackle Ronnie Stanley, but that's still a question mark because he's coming back from injury. How bad was that injury and how does it affect him? And then left guard with Bradley Bozeman. Those are about the only two spots on the offensive line. Outside of that, Makari and Skura, I don't think Skura comes back. I don't think Makari is the answer. I think he's a good depth piece because I think he's better suited to be a rotational guard. Right guard, Ben Powers showed some flashes, but I don't know if he's ready to be the everyday right guard. And now Orlando Brown's gone at right tackle. So you got problems.
And Skura said he's moving on, right? Didn't he put that out there? He's not come back.
Well, let's take a second because we're assuming in that whole scenario. We're assuming Orlando Brown is gone. Right. The idea that they're shopping him is the fact that they know he's unhappy. However, this could be a scenario that we go, look, we didn't get what we wanted for you. You need to play. You're going to play and you're going to play right. Right? Maybe he plays left. I don't know. It's going to depend on Stanley. But at the same time, he's got to come in and make a choice at that point. Is he going to play for the contract that he wants? Or is he playing just because of the contract that he has?
Taco Bell. That was great. What the hell happened there? He had me on the wrong bank. Now I'm hungry.
Brandon Williams had the Taco Bell. That worked out so perfectly.
No, that was Matt Judon.
Oh, was it?
That was Matt Judon. Oh, man. All right, man. It's time for a social media shout out. Hit the little buzzer there, Ryan. Your little.
Oh, didn't know we had social media shout out here. Sorry, man. Got tied up. The Birdland Hall of
Oh, that couldn't have gone any smoother. Ryan, it's time for a social media shout out.
Hey, we had a week off. We threw it all out of whack. And Drew's not here to keep an eye on me. Drew was the first guest in. Ryan Bratton, Joe Carlozzo, Steven Severs, who's in Epcot. We're Disney official now. That's pretty cool.
Nice.
Garnett.
Saw his pool. His pool is freaking awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Kamal, King Bratton, Craig Zero, Jamal Caldwell, Sherry Reedy, Big Play Dave, who's dropping some Brown love in the chat.
Of course. What's up, Dave?
Young Will, Alex Duval, Joe Shipley, Andrew Skura, Terrence, and Dominique Henson.
Awesome. Any good comments out there that we haven't talked about or brought up yet that you saw?
There was a lot of arguing back and forth. Everybody made some good points, but nothing that I really wanted to bring up other than the awesome Epcot fact that we're in Disney right now. I thought that was pretty sweet. I've watched a show in the ER with my wife. We got Epcot. I know we were on a plane one time. This show's well traveled.
All right, Ryan, it's time for some shell and tell. Time to talk Terps. We're going to start with the football squad this week. Not a ton of news, but there has been some news around recruits and recruiting. Right now with the 2021 class, this is one of the best classes that they've had in a very long time. at Maryland, and 2022 is shaping up really well already. But they've got one scholarship left for this 2021 class, and I think everybody's kind of itching to see what the Terps do here. I mean, you and I have talked about it. They still need help on the offensive line. I'd love to see them land another JUCO offensive lineman with that scholarship. Maybe quarterback depth, because right now Talia is really the only scholarship quarterback that they have on the roster. I mean, they got the guy from VMI coming in, but he's still got to play through spring ball before he can even get here. So how much is he really going to be acclimated to the offense? I don't even really count him.
That's a really interesting situation, because if he gets hurt in spring ball, what are we going to do at that point?
Right.
You've kind of strung out that that's going to be your only backup right now.
Right. And then I think the other area that concerns me still is running back. And that hasn't been a concern over the last couple of years. You know, Jake Funk, obviously, best wishes to him as he pursues his professional career. Right now, we're stacked with a bunch of young guys. Now, some of these guys are talented. You know, Isaiah Jacobs, the brother of Josh Jacobs, you know, with the Raiders.
Penny Boone,
big boy. They got a couple guys coming in, freshmen, Antoine Littleton and Hemby.
Yeah, from John Carroll.
Yeah, Middle River Renegade. Shout out to Middle River. So they got some young running back talent in there, but they don't have that bell cow. I don't think – or Fleet Davis might have one more year.
Fleet Davis got one more year.
Okay, so Fleet Davis would be the senior running back. But I still don't see him being an every down type of running back. And we all know the wild card that he is off the field. He could be pulled off the roster any minute for anything. For anything stupid. We have no idea if he's actually going to play. What do you want to see him do with this last scholarship that they have?
I'm not as worried about running back as you are, I don't think.
Okay.
I think there's so many options. I feel like something's got to stick. I mean, we saw some highlight reel plays from Penny Boone. We didn't really see much from Josh Jacobs, but I'm sorry, his brother. We saw mostly fumbles from him, so I really hope that gets taken care of.
Agreed.
I mean, we saw
more in the return game than it was running the football.
We saw fumbles from Lamar Jackson a lot the first year, too. We fixed that somehow. So whoever fixed that, please step over and give my boy some help. But I do think that offensive line's a huge question mark. We did have a pretty good draft class 2 years ago, like that never showed up, like the Marcus Fingers of the world.
Right.
That we had big 300-pound linemen that were on the team that we haven't seen play at all. So since they really didn't get anybody, maybe there's something they know that we don't, that they're ready, that they've groomed these guys to a position. Obviously, we just lost Chance Campbell in the linebacker position. Everyone's very young there. And it sounds like there's also an injury issue with our 5-star Terrence Lewis.
That was going to be my next question to you is, you know, you do lose your senior, or not senior, but your veteran leadership in Chance Campbell. That hurt.
And we thought we were good. Well, maybe we got a 4-star from Michigan. We got a 5-star from Florida.
We're loaded. We're loaded with a ton of young guys. But
and
then
already we're probably down to 5-star is what everyone's saying. We've lost another ACL at ACLU.
Yeah. So is linebacker a concern? You know, is that somewhere that maybe you're looking to spend that other scholarship on?
That's me. I'm 50-50 on offensive line, linebacker. I think that Eric Nigerian, that was the walk-on quarterback we saw. That was the best walk-on I've ever seen. And Maryland knows a thing or two about
small sample size,
true.
But yes.
But Maryland knows a thing or two about playing walk-on quarterbacks and their 4th, 5th, 6th string standing out there. So I've seen a few.
Right.
So I'm okay with him being a 2 or 3. And the VMI quarterback apparently has some NFL draft grades, looking like a 6th, 7th rounders are on him right now.
Right.
So apparently he's got some real talent, even though he's from a low-level college.
Gotcha.
So if those 3 are your quarterbacks, I'm good. Now, again, he's got to get through
Are you,
spring.
though? You lose Talia in the first 2 weeks of the year?
Here's the thing. I've always told you, it doesn't matter. We will be good when we play one quarterback for a whole year. We can't seem to do it.
Yeah. That's why I think the more important piece is offensive line. You got to do everything that you can to keep Talia up.
Yeah, keep Talia healthy. You need that offensive line. I would be 60-40 offensive line versus defense. The only reason I would lean linebacker a little bit is because our defense right now is going to be scary good, even without replacing that. But that is a big hole if you're losing that 5-star that you thought was going to give you good minutes.
There's a lot of question marks, though. I think this defense can be good, but you got a lot of youth coming in. You got a new coaching staff coming in. You got new game plans, new philosophies. You got all the hurdles still that they're trying to overcome with COVID and everything. So there's a lot of learning curves that are going to happen. And it's really going to take, I think, 4 or 5 weeks, 4 or 5 games of these guys, kind of the younger guys, getting their feet underneath of them and really learning this defense. Because even last year, for instance, right, we talked about going into last year, like an area of concern was the secondary. And the minute that they started the year, it was still a concern. But as the year went on, they got better and better and better and better every single week. This kid still came out of nowhere, ended up being the best D-back that we had on our team. And that's saying something because he was a better defensive back than Nick Cross, in my opinion, last year. So
he might be the best defensive back I've seen there. We've had a lot of NFL D-backs on that roster.
Right. So I'm just saying, I think that I would have felt a lot better about this defense not losing Chance Campbell. That kills me.
Oh, Chance Campbell was a much bigger loss than the imaginary what Terrence Lewis could have.
Right.
So Chance Campbell is a terrible loss. Again, it all just seems like it was just going to happen because almost everyone that left this year was the remaining DJ Durkin players. It was a mass exodus of we tried it, we're done, we're going to go find somebody else that wanted us from the beginning.
Right. Well, flipping around, staying on the good side of recruiting, right? One of the things that has kind of been a struggle with the Terps football program for many years, really, has been the lack of connection that they've had at St. Francis Academy, right? That's been a struggle of ours. It's a freaking an influx of talent that just somehow feeds everybody else, but they completely bypass on the Terps, right? Well, it looks like Loxley and crew is starting to plant some roots there. They're starting to put offers out to some of the really young talent there. This would be a really nice local connection to have feeding the program that just hasn't been there over the years. I know you watched the HBO special that they did on the San Francisco program.
Yeah, that was very cool. It was very short. I think it was like 8 episodes or something, but it was very cool.
Yeah, that
Call
would be
Some Winning. Is that what it was called?
Something like
that.
Yeah. That would be huge. I think that's and this is how you do it. You got to kind of jump ahead of things, start getting these young guys.
They're completely full of national talent. Most of their top guys just get siphoned to Michigan for whatever unknown reasons that might be in the college underworld.
Hamburger bags.
So we kind of need the other hardball to get fired before I think we can get a real stronghold in there. But we can figure it out. But we've gotten a few guys more than we've had in the past recently. They also just changed the recruiter in the school to Brawley Evans, who's been on fire. He's one of the top recruiters in the nation right now.
Right.
So hopefully that helps us. Obviously, the school has been seemingly a lot more relatable and a lot more hip.
Yeah.
under Loxley and all the new crew that's like bringing new age thoughts and processes to the school. All the advancements that they have with the personal branding, all these things can really speak to these younger kids that they're trying to get a hold of. So hopefully it works.
Well, they did land a nice local addition to their 2022 class. We talk about Talia being the only real quarterback on our roster right now. We've got some pieces in there, but no guys that we want to see the field. Well, they did add a quarterback. Well, maybe 3-star dual threat quarterback, Preston Howard from McDonough. 6'6", 220 pounds, number 10 dual threat quarterback in the nation, number 9 overall player out of Maryland in his class. This kid's obviously got great size, 6'6", 220, still in high school. That's huge. Got a really good frame, got great athleticism. A lot of coaches, including his coach, have said that he might be better suited or might make the transition from quarterback to tight end.
Tight end or D-end, yeah.
Or D-end, right, playing on the defensive side of the ball. This is a good get because, again, we haven't really attracted much in the way of decent quarterback play. And I know this kid still has some question marks whether it's going to work out at quarterback, but I think having that dual threat in this offense fits very well.
Yeah, we haven't had a high school quarterback since Lance Lejean. Lance Lejean walked on us. So before that, it was Kasem Hill. Kasem Hill walked on us. So we have all of our quarterbacks have been transfers recently.
Right.
So this is definitely a big get. I think it's smart. They brought him in. They tagged him as an athlete. They have not tagged him as a quarterback. I think if you're Locks, you go to this kid and be like, look, I think you're best at a tight end or defensive end. But as you see, we do have quarterback struggles. So if it ends up we miss on some players, I'm not going to – if you want reps there, we're going to give you reps there and see what you got at this level. So I think this is a good fallback plan / he's going to be a great athlete no matter where you play him on the field.
Well, and the other thing with this is, too, is that Maryland's been involved with a couple other highly recruited quarterbacks out there, and they're still going after these guys. So I think –
and we're in the top 2 for both of them, I think.
Exactly. And I think they feel comfortable knowing that, okay, if we miss out on these other guys, we've got this guy. But if we land one of these guys, now we've covered 2 positions because we can move this guy as an athlete.
It's also why you had to have him come in as an athlete so you didn't scare anybody off that you actually wanted to play the position.
Exactly. So this is good. These are all good signs. 2022 class is looking really, really good. Speaking of good, wide receiver core has been something that has been very good for the last couple of years. Rakim Jarrett obviously burst onto the scene last year, had a great freshman year, right?
Dante Demas to Sean Jones, as long as he's not getting 50-yard penalties.
Right. But I think a guy that committed to the 2021 class that we haven't talked about a whole lot, that's been getting a lot of noise from some internal people with the program. Yeah. Wide receiver commit Ty Felton. What's been said about this kid that I think is super impressive is that he is the fastest guy on the field, the fastest player that they've seen. Now, granted, I don't know who this is coming from. I don't know if it's coming from players, if this is coming from coaching staff or what. But that's freaking high praise when you're comparing him, Ty Felton, again, a freshman, to this elite class of wide receivers that we already had, and he's the fastest guy on the field.
Demas pretty fast.
Yeah.
Rack's pretty fast.
Exactly. Jay-Sean Jones, pretty fast.
Nick Cross was a top track athlete in the country.
Right.
We got some speed out there. So if Tay's making them look bad, that's speed.
That's good. And I think where that could have a big impact, especially because we're so loaded at the wide receiver position, is in the return game. We've talked about that. Obviously, you just mentioned it a couple of minutes ago with Jacobs and the fumble issues that
I
he
want to
had.
see him return balls anymore.
I don't want to see him returning balls either. Now, just because he has speed doesn't mean that he can return, but that's what you want. You want a guy that's a smaller frame, guy that's more of a lower center of gravity kind of guy, and that's got quickness like that. And I think Ty Felton might be a potential return specialist in the future.
That'd be great. It's been a while since it was exciting, and when it has been exciting at Maryland, it's been really exciting. All the way back to Steve Suter, Diggs, Hayward Bay. They've had William Likely. We've had some real fun return guys in the past.
For sure. All right. I know I've seen it in the chat room already. There's everybody's hype around this basketball squad.
All of a sudden, you guys like Maryland basketball. Where were you 4 games ago?
Right.
We win 4 games in 8 weeks, and we win 4 games in 8 days, and y'all, it's completely different. Get out of here.
I mean, it's been pretty impressive. Granted, it's a lot of Big Ten games, some against the lower tier teams in the Big Ten, but anytime you can win 4 games in 8 days against the likes of Minnesota, 2 games over Nebraska in back-to-back days, which almost never happens. That's always a 50-50 split in those back-to-back games. But the Terps were able to pull off both of those games. And then you went on Sunday over a Rutgers team who is a much better improved team, was a top 25 team there for a while during the year.
They got some talent. That was a game.
They've got some talent, especially down low. They've got good size, great play down low.
Why is that not true in the Big Ten?
With Maryland.
That's it.
We're
the only one.
Maryland's the only one. But somehow we're still winning games, right?
When Dante Scott's your center, that's part of the problem.
Dante Scott's strong as hell, but he ain't that tall.
Right. But Terps now sit at 14-10 overall, 8-9 in Big Ten play, which puts them 7th in the conference right now. A lot of experts, are putting out their 4 in and 4 out and all of that. Every list that I've seen so far, either Maryland is on the 4 in, or they're not even considered on the 4 in and they're above that. So a lot of the experts are already basically locking Maryland into this NCAA tournament, which to me, I get it. They've got some of the most impressive wins on the year. They're obviously playing in the most difficult division in men's basketball. But at 14-10, I just never would have assumed that this team would be a lock for the NCAA tournament.
I think a lot of that's the projection for the end of the year because the teams that we have left are not the murderer's row that we've already survived through.
Right.
So even if you go 2-2, you're you're probably in, and you're probably going better than that.
Right.
For the West way out. Now the Big Ten tournament is where the real question mark is because you're going to end up matched up against somebody.
Don't embarrass yourself. That's the thing. Like, if Maryland wins
what's
out,
your definition though, man? Because we lose to Ohio State by 5 points, and everybody acts like we didn't get off the bench. So I don't know what people's expectations are because some of these teams are just better than us.
Listen,
we're a top 35 team. We're not a top 10 team.
He is such a Maryland diehard. It's like he took that so personally.
I know. As soon as you said that, I was like, "Oh shit, you shouldn't have said that." God damn.
So the Ohio State thing for me, when I say embarrassing, it wasn't an embarrassing loss.
Penn State was an embarrassing loss. I'll give it to you.
I didn't say Ohio State was an embarrassing loss. There was what's embarrassing is when we go 0 for 16 stretches.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care if it's against
keeps happening against everyone.
Exactly. And I don't care if it's against Ohio State or if it's against, the University of Ohio. I don't care who it's against. When you shoot 0 for 16 during a stretch, I don't care who it's against. That's embarrassing.
Well, I think the big thing for me, like going into the tournament, in the tournament, you're on a national stage now. I mean, not that we weren't before, but it's the tournament, right?
Right.
I think what you're talking about is you can't go on these long streaks of 0 for. I mean, how many minus the last 4
Joe,
games?
I actually think Ohio State has 6. I think Ohio State's leading that category for most quad wins. But
okay, but no, what I was saying was that's one of those things that you cannot go into those games and have those 0 for runs because the teams that you're going to go up against, to your point, are going to destroy you. The Ohio States, when you go 0 for, you had the chance to win that game.
It's in this Rutgers game. We won it, and yet we still had this run where they had scored 0 points for I think the last 6 minutes of the first half or something, and we had only gained 5 points during that 6 minutes.
Exactly.
Like, how are you holding somebody scoreless for 6 minutes and not running away with it?
So let me ask you, right? We win these 4 games in 8 days, right? What for you have you seen that's been the biggest difference over these last 4 games? Because in my opinion, I think they're just playing better overall defensive basketball than they've been playing all year. I mean, they're only giving up an average of 59 points per game right now over the last 9. So defensively, that allows you to have those stretches and yet still be in the game some fucking how. But again, when you get to the big tournaments, you can't have that kind of hiccup. You're in, it's one or done. One loss and you're out. But what has been the difference, do you think, over the last 4 games?
So the 4th game might be a different answer, but if you put a gun to my head, what's the difference in the over-encompassing last 4 games? That guy Aaron Wiggins up there that has all of a sudden,
I was waiting for it.
All of a sudden been super consistent.
There it is.
Aaron Wiggins.
Consistent and effort.
Yeah, I don't know what's changed. I don't know what switch is on. It's a little sad to me because I think he's turned it on to the point where you're not seeing him back next year, and we're not ready to make a deep run this year no matter how good he plays. We could make a entertaining March between the Big Ten, but we're not winning either one of them, and we're not probably getting into the Sweet 16 no matter how good he plays because you don't have a big man. But I think the reason we're good, but then we also saw this last game against Rutgers, him playing well was not enough. They played Hart. All of a sudden showed up. He was consistent throughout the game. He ran the point a lot better. Actually kind of showed me that he might be the best point guard on the team, even though I'm an Eric Ayala truther. I'm starting to get what Turgeon saw in him because I just never understood why this freshman's bringing the ball up when I've always been so high on Eric.
Right.
I think Eric is freed up by not being the true point guard, even though I do think he's very capable in it. So if you can get production, I mean, that was the first game they had 5 scores in double figures. It was unreal. They had a complete consistency around the board. Yeah,
I think what's been the most frustrating for me with Aaron Wiggins over his career really has just been the nights off. Like there are just nights that he takes off. He doesn't put the effort out there because I think that any given day he is the most gifted basketball player on that squad. And I don't think that's up for debate. I think he's the best shooter. I think he's the best all-around player on that squad when he puts the effort. And for whatever reason, over this last stretch of games, to your point, the effort's been 100%, and it's shown, and he's putting up the numbers. This is what the scouts were so high on him in his freshman year. First of all, he was shooting the lights out of the gym his freshman year.
He percentage was insane.
He couldn't miss anything.
Neither
but second, he didn't get a ton of minutes, but the minutes that he got, he maximized on. Then in a minute, like the next year, he starts getting an abundance of minutes and he just doesn't do anything with it. And that's kind of been why I think he's still at Maryland, right? And I still think that even next year he'll be at Maryland. At this point,
I sure hope you're right.
At this point, Aaron Wiggins is 22 years old. By the time he's drafted next year, he'll be 23 years old, which in drafting terms, especially in the NBA, that's already pretty old for a drafted kid at 23 years old. So for me, why wouldn't you stay for another year, especially if you're a fringe low first round or potentially second round pick, or maybe you're not even an NBA draft pick and you're talking about playing overseas. Overseas basketball will be there for you at 24, no different than it is at 23. Why wouldn't you stay here for that final year when you know Eric Ayala's back, you're back, you're going to get some of these, the James Grahams of the world, you might get some new size, Reese, the kid Reese that's coming in.
Reese Mona?
No, not Reese Mona, the other kid, an actual power forward that's coming in. You've got some pieces. This was supposed to be a bridge year. I don't think anybody had high expectations for this team going into this year. Next year was where we're supposed to see them back into the top 25 and back into contention for things. If you're Ayala, or you're Wiggins, why wouldn't you want to be a part of that?
They're pretty much matching my expectations now. Before this 4-game winning streak where we might miss the tournament altogether, I was a little disappointed, but not shocked. I knew that was a possibility at the beginning of the year. But I did think that with the, I thought, above-average guard play, even though everybody was scared why we didn't get a guard in the offseason, I thought we had plenty of at least twos that could run it.
Right.
And so I thought we'd be fine and probably make the tournament.
Well,
so
let me ask you. I was going to say, so then do you think this team has played up to your expectations, overdone your expectations, or what?
I'd like to win a postseason game. Honestly, I think my expectation is
you could win a
games.
postseason game in the NIT.
No, I would like to win a Big Ten tournament or NCAA tournament game. I would probably say I'd like to get into the second round of both, and I'm happy with this year completely. I think that would, number one, shut up about 30 to 40% of the Turge haters.
So speaking of Turge,
there we go.
Joe says, does Turge get an extension?
If he wins 2 games, yes, no matter where those games are, other than the NIT. If we show up at the NIT, he's not getting that extension.
So if he wins 2 in the Big Ten tournament, but that he's done on the first game of the NCAA tournament,
I think he still gets an
extension. Okay.
Because it all depends on why. Like if we get to the NCAA tournament and you match up against somebody with a 7-footer scoring 20 a game, we're done before we showed up.
Right.
Like that bracket's going to matter depending on who. Right now we're matched up. The last thing I saw, we were matched up against Clemson. I'd love that rematch because I'm a little sad we lost early. I don't know why we lost early. That was one of our worst games of the year. I would really like that matchup again, but we'll have to see.
Well, all right. Scott called me out because I had the football squad on here. I got the men's basketball squad on here. There was some other Maryland news that happened this week. That I
started last week.
Last week that I didn't put in the outline and I didn't give any credit to. Scott, tell the fans what's been going on.
I mean, I think we got to give credit to this women's basketball team.
100%.
Right? And really, it starts, in all honesty, it starts and ends with Brenda Freese.
Yeah.
This is the all-time winningest female coach for the Terps.
Yep.
Right? She hits her 500th win. I think now she's at 503. That was last Sunday that she hit the 500th. So I think she's at 503 now. At Maryland, she's 503 and 130, right? She passes Chris Waller with his 499 from 1975 to 2002, right? So that's what, 27 years? She's done it in 19.
Yeah. Pretty impressive. I mean, they've
been good for a long time.
Yeah, that Maryland women's basketball team has been a top tier. That's everything. What they are is everything that we want on the Maryland squad. We want to be that perennial team that's always in contention for a Final Four. You know, that top 10 team. Maryland's basketball squad has always been in the top 10 since Brenda Freese has been there.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not whether they make the tournament, it's whether they make the Final Four.
Final Four.
That's
right.
the question every
That's
year.
exactly right. Yep.
And they've really had a load of accomplishments. I mean, the 9th in the league right now in the NCAA. So I think it just goes to show that she's just doing it consistently. It's her recruiting, but it's also her coaching, right? Some of these girls. I actually watched some highlights of the games. I'll be straight out with you two. Some of these girls, I think, could give some of the guys a run for their goddamn money.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Well,
these girls are patient with their shots. They shoot them and they shoot daggers, right? Whereas I think the men's team, and I didn't get a chance to bring it up, but I think a lot of the times part of the reason and part of the problem with the Terps is we are rushing shots Or when we're being patient, we're being way too patient and not taking the open shot that's in front of us.
Yeah.
Right? And so the women capitalize on this at an amazing rate. You know, I think on both sides of the ball, they shoot greater than 40%. Or not both sides of the ball, on the 3 and from field goals. They're shooting better than 40% on both sides.
That's damn good. That's damn good.
I do want to give one more shout out to the women's basketball team since we're bringing this up. Today had a notable player accomplishment on top of the great coach that we know Brenda Freese is. In a mind-blowing game of 111-93, when we're watching Maryland men's basketball scoring 60 points a game.
Wow, Iowa scored 93?
111-93 versus Iowa.
Matt Garza must have been fucking with a wig on out there or something.
These are the 2 top scoring teams in the nation. Senior Katie Benson set a program record with 9 3-pointers. What's more impressive about that is she tied the old record for a whole game of 8 in the first half. She had 8 3-pointers in the first half of that game. Now, I don't know how she only got 1 in the second half, because if I was her, I'd just be launching every time.
I'd have been shooting everything.
Be like, we're going to see how high this record goes. Yeah. But then again, it was a tight game.
I'm in Dave and Buster's, bitch. I'm just throwing everything up.
No, she gets that from the men. Just throw it up.
Yeah.
One quick thing that I have noticed that's a little bit different, too, that I didn't bring up with Aaron Wiggins or anything. Aaron Wiggins and Ayala, I've been seeing a lot more dribble drives to the basket. It's not the Anthony Cowan straight lines. It's like some fancy and one dribbles around there. Like, I don't know how they're not getting the ball stolen, completely pickpocketed, but it's working. Yeah. Like, somehow they're driving in, doing a little weird post move and going up. I don't. It's different.
It's gonna be interesting to see how Maryland reacts, because they've been playing nothing but big teams that have a ton of size, not a whole lot of speed, right? They get into this NCAA tournament and they start playing against teams that are built similar to them, you know, guys that are more athletic, guys that are more quick. It's going to be interesting to see how this Terps team reacts to that, because they're so used to size. And I think, to your point, I think that if they're going up against some of these smaller teams,
it's going to be weird not playing 35-year-old white men in the Big Ten.
It's also going to come down to what bracket are they put in.
Yeah.
So
right. That's very true.
I did the dong again.
There it is.
Dong.
Why do you keep switching that?
I meant to give you guys like a sad trombone when we were talking about
All right, it's time for the Liquor Stop Brew of the Week. Scott, what does Jerry and the crew have us drinking today?
So this is from Harpoon Brewing Company, one of the very few brewing companies that they are quote-unquote employee-owned. This is one of their seasonal winter beers, and it's appropriately named right now for everything we've been dealing with as the Long Thaw.
It thawed pretty quick today, honestly.
It did. Yeah. It did. The rest of the week was still ridiculous, but this was technically meant for last week, so it would have been real fitting last week. It's a hazy IPA, 6.2% ABV. In their words, this season in New England is fickle. Snowy mornings are met by sunny afternoons, and weekday warm streaks lead into blizzards. Instead of switching up our beer choices to match the weather, we brewed the Long Thaw, a delightfully hazy IPA brewed with orange peel, coriander, and classic American hops. Soft, crushable, refreshingly citrus, but medium-bodied with a warming spice. It's different. It's a perfect in the sun as it is mid-blizzard. Jesus Christ, if I can talk.
So not only is it a New England beer for the Ravens podcast, but it also has a great green screen effect. Scott, why don't you go ahead and show them how the green screen works with this?
You want to see
it's
that?
Really awesome.
Hey, you want to see the beer over there? There's the beer. There's the beer.
So here's the label for the guy that doesn't have the green screen effect. We're going to go in there for you.
It's a pretty good beer. Like you said, it's got a little bit of an orange, citrusy kind of aftertaste to it for an IPA. It does have a good amount of hop to it.
I'm over here like...
Yeah,
but it's not
like chewing a salad.
You get the hop, but it's not the IPA bite that you get.
It's a lot of hop.
Oh, it's a lot of hop for sure,
and it's strong. I mean, 6.2% alcohol.
It's obviously on the bottom,
a decent volume.
I got hop all over the place on this.
Right. It's got a little, because of the orange, I think it's got a little bit of a Blue Moon kind of vibe to it, even though it's an IPA.
I would put a fresh orange in it, like an orange slice with it, and see how it is. I think it would actually be pretty good.
Well, make sure you get to Liquor Stop. Tell the boys that Birdland BS sent you. Get your 10% off. Make sure that this isn't the Taco Bell thing. It's not.
I think for consistency purposes, we should have just turned it to the Taco Bell dog.
All right, Scott, it's time for some bros, bows, and O's. We gave you a break there while Ryan and I dished out some stuff with the Terps.
I got a shot. I crawled across the floor, got a shot from James. Thank you, James. Might need a refill in a minute.
Pitchers and catchers.
Last
Report to
Tuesday.
camp last Tuesday.
Along with some other notables like Trey Mancini actually showing up early to camp.
Yeah.
Shows you the drive.
Would you expect anything less
No.
from Trey Mancini? Like,
No.
that's just him.
I just thought it was mentionable, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot of guys do that. He showed up, and I think it
Looks
might have
good, man.
I forget who the other one was. It might have been Ruiz that showed up early. Somebody else showed up early with them. But yeah, everything's looking good. Full squad reported today.
Nice.
And one of the things that kind of got cleared up today, you were the one that kind of brought this up.
Yeah.
You saw some news about Santander, obviously a lot of question marks last year with his oblique, and then some of the rumors that have come up. What did you see today?
Yeah, so there were a lot of rumors in the offseason about Santander and whether or not he was going to be with the squad, if the Orioles were actually looking to shop him, and apparently they were. Just kind of trying to gauge some interest. So you're always wondering, especially with a younger player like Santander, like, does that affect him mentally? And they interviewed him today, and everything that he said seemed to be positive, that he understood the business side of things. And obviously he went through it being a Rule 5
Rule
draft.
5 guy, yeah, he gets
right.
it.
So he understands the business side of
He gets
things.
it more than most, probably.
Right. But I think what was most impressive, and all the coaching staff and everybody that talked about it said that he came in the best shape that he's been in, that he looks good. So even with all the rumors, he didn't let that deter him or put him off track, with his offseason training and all that stuff. This is a guy that brings a lot of tools to the table. And this is a guy that I think is still on the rise as far as potential goes, right? He started off the year last year, granted it's a shortened season, but started off the year like gangbusters and then came back down to earth later on in the year. But there's a ton of potential with this kid, right? And he's still very young. So my question to you is with him, are you really putting trade feelers out there for a guy like this who is young enough that he could still be a potential block for the future? If you really think that we're going to be competitive again in 2 years from now, right? We talked about it being a 3-year thing. 2 years from now, why wouldn't this kid be a potential piece to that?
When it comes down to it, right, we've talked about hearing everything out. I think for me, I'd like to see Santander here. I absolutely would. I think you can build an outfield around him, let him be the leader out there.
And he made big strides in the outfield last year.
Huge strides.
He was in running for a Gold Glove.
And I think that's something to say, but there's a value there that comes in. You have some cogs that you think are going to be your future, that you don't think are very far away, that can kind of, I don't know necessarily in the outfield that anybody fits that cog, but an outfield can be serviceable, right? Because you have time to read and react. That's what you have to worry about with guys in the outfield. I don't want to shop Santander, but I get why maybe they are. If you can get something in value in return for him, I'm hearing it out, right? Somebody that's a competitor right now sees the hot streak that he's on, and especially if he starts off the season the way that he has over the past few years, I'm fielding phone calls, come May-ish. I'm fielding them because I'm seeing what's out there, and I know where my team's going. I know what my team's doing. This team definitely has done a lot on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Which is the only reason I'm hesitant, because he has done a lot offensively for this team. So I'm really honestly torn. I don't know that I can give you the answer. I'm willing to hear things out. We've talked about that. We talked about it with Mancini. As much as we don't want to, you hear it out. If there's something that blows you away, you have to weigh what's the effect on this for me for the future. And then you make your decision.
And that's where I agree with you. I'm 100% open, and I told you this before, I'm listening to all offers for anybody. Now, that doesn't mean I'm willing to give away anybody. It's going to have to take quite the package to be able to pull certain guys away.
I'm going to say this. If you're talking main 40-man, I agree with you. But if you're talking organization, I'm saying hell no. Because we're ranked 7th now.
Yeah.
In baseball.
But again,
7th best ranked farm system. Again, I'm not giving that shit up.
I'm listening to everything. Now, I don't think that there's going to be offers out there that the Orioles are going to even entertain, right? But Santander, I'm not giving him away for a bag of balls like I am with some of these veterans that we knew weren't going to be a part of the future plans. We were just trying to get prospects in hopes that these prospects prosper and turn into pieces that could be for the future. If you're getting Santander from me, who is, I consider, a piece for the future, then I'm going to need pieces that I know are going to be for my future for him. I'm not giving him away for a potential prospect. I'm giving him away for almost can't miss prospects. That's the only way I'm giving away a Santander. And it might have to be for two pieces because, again, to pry a piece that I think is a block for the future, it's going to take that to get him away.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot. And I think there are some cogs that maybe not necessarily you're building around, but they're fillers right now. That obviously one of them last year wound up trading. I don't think we traded him. I think we released him, but now he's got an invite back to camp. Stevie Wilkerson, right, who came in as a pitcher, right, did great with it, made an amazing play in Boston, right, the previous year in 2020. I mean, the guy has abilities, so he's another guy that you could help build around and be a filler for a guy like Santander. I just don't know that it's got to be a blow-away trade for me for Santander.
So you mentioned it kind of in passing, right? Some latest rankings and reports, Baseball America, these guys out there have put some rankings on their minor league systems.
Yeah.
And the Orioles right now sit 7th best in Major League Baseball.
Highest the Orioles have ever been.
That's pretty fucking impressive. So for everybody out there that doesn't believe in the rebuild process, can't wait until this team is competitive again.
I think we need a dream sequence for this statement. Remember 2 years ago.
Yeah, right. This is it. This is the plan coming to fruition. It starts with your roots, and the roots were dead with this organization. Mm-hmm. Well, these roots now have lives. They're starting to sprout. They're starting to grow again. 7th ranked system in Major League Baseball in a 2-year switch. That's super, super impressive.
It's impressive considering they give up, Drew brings up they did get a team's number 7 prospect for Cobb. So, yeah, you're right. You're spot on with that. I think the other thing that comes into is they're trying to bring in guys, I think, to fill the stopgap a little bit. Obviously, we talked about Felix Hernandez, specifically pitchers is what we're referencing. But the Orioles also go out and sign former All-Star pitcher Matt Harvey. 31 years old.
I am Batman.
5th team in the last 5 years he's been with, right? Last year, not so hot. He was 0-3 with an 11.57 ERA through 4 starts and 3 relief appearances for Kansas City. His fastball has dipped from 97 where it was in 2013. Now it's at 94.5 when he's doing well.
That's still a decent life.
It is, but it's a drop for a guy that's used to throwing 97, 98, right?
Yeah.
That 97 is an average.
Yeah, I know.
So, obviously, former All-Star 2013. 2013 was kind of the worst year for him because that's when he had to have Tommy John surgery. And I don't feel like he's ever truly come back from that.
He hasn't.
And he also had, he had to have an operation. It was a thoracic outlet syndrome. I don't know what that is.
You just speak gibberish to me. I have no idea.
I don't know.
It's Chinese.
I don't know what it is, but he had I have an operation in 2016. In the last 5 years, he has had not 1 year with a sub-5 ERA.
Yep.
I think that's telling of where his career is right now. And this is another situation of the Orioles bringing guys in. So, in Cogs and guys that have had success in the past. So let's give him that, right? Let's not ignore that he has had success in the past. Maybe he just needs a different place to figure it out.
A lot of guys have had success in the past. Doesn't mean you should sign him.
Oh, I know. But what I'm saying is he's on a low risk deal. It's like a $1 million minor league deal, league minimum. Do you like it or not? Is the question.
No, absolutely not.
Why?
And kind of like I told you about the Felix Hernandez thing. I understand it, right? Because what they're hoping is he figures things out. He's kind of digs the whole analytical thing, which is obviously what the Orioles organization's doing, right? So they're hoping that helps him recanter the success that he had in years past. He'll never be what he once was.
Oh,
right?
hell no, he won't.
But if the Orioles can get,
he He was in the running for the Cy Young back then, by the way.
Right. If they can get some productive starts out of him, they're obviously hoping to flip him for another prospect, right? That's the only reason you make this deal. And I understood it with Felix Hernandez. I give them leeway to do that with maybe one guy that you're going to spot hole into a spot in the rotation, because right now, this Orioles rotation has a lot of question marks. Outside of like two guys, John Means and Keegan Aiken, you really don't know who else is going to be in the starting rotation going into this year. You bring in a Felix Hernandez. Okay, so that gives you three
spots.
Now you bring in a Matt Harvey who's going to be eating up starts. This is where it starts to be a problem for me with halting experience for some of the young and upcoming starters.
Like who?
And I'm not talking the Grayson Rodriguez. I'm not talking the DL Hall. Those guys are still a year away before they're going to make it here, right? But a guy like Michael Ballman, right? Okay. Michael Ballman is a guy who's proven it at the AA level and even the AAA
You're
level.
High on him right now.
I like this kid. And he came in to spring, and right now everybody's raving about the zip that he had on his fastball and some of the bullpen sessions that he threw. And granted, it's bullpen sessions. You don't know what you're getting. But he's proven at the minor league level that he can do it.
Yeah.
His next step is showing that he can do it at the major league level. I don't think Matt Harvey is going to garner you any true prospect value. So at this point, all you're really doing is blocking the development of a Michael Ballman at the major league level, getting him the experience that he needs. That's my problem.
I get it. You're also bringing Matt Harvey in, to see what he can do. He's on a minor league deal, so he goes in the minors, no matter what if you want. Yeah, you have him there. Now he's fit. Now some of your batters in double and AAA. If you want to send him down to AA, go ahead. You have the ability to. He's on a minor league deal. It doesn't say he has to be in AAA. So put him in AA. Let him throw against some of these young kids. Let them get the experience of going off a guy that has been around the league a little bit, knows the league, and gets it. So I get the upside even off the field for the Matt Harvey signing, but I get what you're saying about Ballman, because there's another guy that you didn't even mention that I think has to be thrown into the cusp, because this guy that put in work in this offseason last season. Dean Kramer.
Oh, 100%. I think Dean Kramer wins a job in the rotation this spring.
Way he looked the end of last year, and then he not only took the time to develop a change this offseason, you've developed the changeup, but this is a guy that they let him develop a cutter, and they're saying this cutter looks damn good.
Wait a second.
Yes, I just said an Orioles pitcher is throwing a cutter.
And it was their idea to develop it?
I don't know if it was their idea, but they're letting him do it. And that's a big step.
That is a huge step in the right direction for the Orioles organization. Christ, where's Jake Arrieta when you need him, right?
Where was this about 9 years ago?
Jesus.
But Dean Kramer has looked good, and it's the same situation for me that it is, for you with Ballman. I think Dean Kramer.
But that even solidifies it even more for me, because now you're right. I forgot about Dean Kramer. I think
now
Dean Kramer.
Got 4 pitches.
Now you got 4 pitchers in there. You got one spot left in the rotation, and you're going to block that with Matt Harvey and not have a Michael Ballman get the experience.
It's not even just the four pitchers. Your fourth pitcher, which Dean Kramer, I would unless he blows everybody away and Felix kind of maybe does okay. I think he's your number 4, right? I think Felix is your number 3, good middle of the rotation kind of guy, where he's at in his career.
I don't even think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 even matters. It's more so who are those 5 going to be? And if Matt Harvey is in that equation, that fucks it up for me. That keeps a guy like Ballman down when he needs the experience.
My biggest thing though is a guy like Dean Kramer is obviously over Ballman, just for the simple fact that your number 4 pitcher, this is where I was going with this, your number 4 pitcher has 4 pitches.
Right.
Your number 4 guy usually has 3 if you're lucky. Usually it's fastball, curveball, maybe you're throwing the change in there. Now he's got a change and he's got a cutter. Yeah. I'm really excited to see what Dean Kramer can bring to the table this year, and I hope this coaching staff really helps him along.
Speaking of coaching staff.
Yeah. Some interesting comments on Twitter this past week.
Now, this wouldn't be the first time he said it, but former outfielder Adam Jones had some interesting comments the other day on Twitter.
Yeah, so he was talking to Aaron Maben. He was actually responding to him and just said, just say the word. I got a few more years in Japan, then I'm open. They were talking about him managing, and he said also want to be the O's manager. He's put it right out there. He said in some years, Jones responded. He said they have a good guy right now to lead. Talking about Hyde, gives him the respect. I appreciate that. But just speaking in future or the GM, We all know I look good in a suit. Ha ha. So, Adam Jones just sees himself as a career, as a career
He's
baseball
a
guy.
Baseball lifer.
Right. And he has good knowledge. I think we saw his growth, which could help and translate to some of these young guys.
Yeah.
Right. And I have to say, we don't know what life beyond Hyde is. And you were talking before the show that neither of us are ready to write Hyde off.
Yeah, no, I like everything that I've seen out of Hyde so far. I like how he talks with the media. I like the programs that he's put together. I like the improvements that we've seen, everything that we've heard out of the clubhouse, minus the one incident that he had with Chris Davis, but fuck that guy. Who cares, right? Good riddance if he did have an issue with him. I like everything that I've seen out of Brandon Hyde, that I'm not ready to turn the naked eye to him and bring in a guy like Adam Jones because he's had the tenure here.
No, I think what it comes down to is there's a lot of, as much flack as I have admittedly given Adam Jones for the hitting and the chasing after the consistent curveball that we know is coming, him looking like goddamn Pedro Serrano when it comes to the curveball at times. I do think he brings a certain leadership role to any team that he's on.
Yeah.
I think he's a guy that you can trust to give. I mean, this is a guy that knew he was on the way out the door and said to Cedric Mullins, "You're taking this team out here."
Yeah.
Right? That takes a true leader.
He's a class act.
Right. And so this really got me thinking this week. Right? And it's the reason that these two guys are up here. If Adam Jones...
Cakes!
Exactly. If Adam Jones were to become manager, I could personally and truly see a Cakes Jones reunion and bring Cakes in as either your bench coach or your hitting instructor.
Or an outfield coach. There's so many things at value that...
Or an outfielder.
There's so many things at value that Nick Markakis could bring.
I mean, he's one of the most consistent hitters in baseball, even in the quote decline over the past few years. And last year he didn't participate because of COVID, and that's fine. But the year prior to that, he still had one of the most consistent numbers in his career, to match his career. He's one of the most consistent hitters in baseball right now, outside of your Mike Trouts, right, who are way above what Cakes was. Love you, Cakes, but Trout's on a different level.
Oh, of course, he's a different level than everybody.
Right. But my point is why not bring in
contract-wise?
Why not bring in a guy that knows how to hit? Can hit for power, but knows how to hit for base hits.
You're not going to get any negative comments out of me on this. Bring 21-10 back. I'm for it.
Nick Markakis played last year.
He did. Yeah, he did.
He wound up coming back. Yeah,
came back.
He originally said he wasn't going to play because of COVID.
But just to get on track, you bring in these guys like Harvey and Felix. Like I said before, I don't know why they just don't try to put Chris Davis in the bullpen. Like, I'm telling you, you're paying the guy. He didn't do bad. Like, I watched his highlights against Boston, that game that he pitched. He had a slider throwing between 83 to, mid-90s. Like, just try it out. You can't do any more damage to it. So get your value.
Right.
On a similar thought process, I think they're trying to cut all this salary. I think we cut the whole team. You get a $5 discount.
Can we just mute him?
Listen, you get a $5 discount if you bring your glove to the game.
Just take a nap during the Orioles segment, please. Just go to sleep.
You just bring your glove to the game. They pick out 12 people to go play. How much fun would that be? I'd go to every game just to see if I get on TV.
Just go to sleep. Just go to sleep.
It'll
be over in a few minutes, I promise.
Just to let you know, this is panning out to be our real major league movie. They could go out there and just be surprisingly
Wait. There's 0.0% there, James.
I don't know.
I think I get what James is. I think I get a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong where you're going with this.
With the payroll being so low and they had nothing to lose, so
let's not forget this
could happen.
Let's not forget that cardboard cutout of the lady that we remove clothing from when we win, right?
They better start sacrificing some live chickens in that locker room.
And Carlos Hyde is I'm too old to be jumping in the showers.
I love this pretty shit. I may move to England.
I think I get where James is going, because let's not forget what this team did from an offensive standpoint last year. They surprised a lot of people with the offensive production of this team last year.
No, 100%.
Granted, you're losing several of those guys to free agency.
You lost a lot of those, especially in your offensive talent.
But with the farm system, these guys are going to be locked in for a little while.
And
who knows?
Have they really said how many games they're going to play yet?
Well, their goal is 162,
Yeah,
but yeah,
There's been floated out 150, 160. Yeah.
But I was just looking at like this year, Chris Davis gets $17 million. Next year, he gets $17 million with a $23 million in luxury tax.
And he'll have as
but
many
then
hits as
after
me
that,
that
he's
year.
got deferred money from 23 to all the way to 2037.
yeah, it's the Bobby Bonilla deal.
It's like this guy's never gonna be broke, dude.
No,
But look, I'm not gonna. Am I gonna blame him for the way he's playing? Absolutely. Am I gonna blame him for the fact that he got a steal of a contract?
No, but
I'm not gonna
I
do
do
that.
blame him for not putting no effort in. Like he doesn't care about just nothing. Like he just wants to show up and hopefully they release him and he can just stay home.
I hope so.
I hope so.
All right, it is time for this week's rundown, and we got to start off a story. We're going to throw it to James for a quick story. He has a great story.
Really unique opportunity.
Unique opportunity.
was
I
a
hate
blessing
you
in
because I didn't
disguise.
get the chance to do it. Like, amazing situation. Tell us the story of what happened to you last week or the week before it was.
2 weeks ago, my cousin texted me early in the morning saying, "Hey, would you be interested in coming down to the shop?"
For those who don't know, James works at Pizza John's.
Yes.
Doc Gooding is going to show up. And I'm like to him in response, I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, no way. So then I'm thinking, like, if he really shows up, I'm going to be deeply pissed because all the kids down at the shop, they didn't know who this guy was. And you know, I'm like a kid in a candy store, and so is my cousin because he was
Showing
the
your
pitcher.
age, James.
Oh, I don't care. He was the pitcher growing up. Like he was
he
the
was.
man, and the stories that you hear about it was crazy. But he actually came down, and
I'm gonna have to mute his mic.
he actually came down and had dinner because he was visiting his kids that actually live in Columbia, and my cousin's best friend is his agent. So it worked out. He came down, got to sit down and shoot the shit. He signed some stuff for me. Awesome guy, great stories, and hopefully, you know, we can get more out of this later. But it was a great.
That's
time,
pretty
man.
cool. I mean, with obviously him and the connection he had with Daryl Strawberry and all the
stories those
drugs,
two must have.
all the drugs and women and everything that they went through in their heyday and stuff. Man, I would love to have been able to sit down and
And his
talk.
curveball
talk
was
shop.
nasty.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nasty.
Well, I mean,
curve.
you're talking about a guy that played from 84 to 2000, four-time All-Star. 84, he was the Rookie of the Year. 85, he won the NL Cy Young, or I'm sorry, he won the Cy Young Award and the NL Triple Crown. And then in 92, as a pitcher, won the Silver Slugger Award.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dude was the real deal. He won 24 games in his second year
Second
pitching.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
I mean, it's just impressive. Like, super jealous of the fact that you got to meet him. I would have loved to have picked his brains with this, like you were talking about, with the stories. Not only the off the field stuff that we all know of, but the on the field stuff. But I know that he's also been sober for several years now, right?
Yeah, 2 years he talked about. He's been clean, and he's down to earth guy. Like, you know, it looked like a normal conversation with him, and wasn't like, get away from me. I'm trying just to eat my food or whatever. But he took the time to sign anything, not just because he thought he had to, but a couple employees asked to sign some stuff. It was awesome, and
that is cool.
He's a big guy, isn't he?
Yeah,
the picture looked that you
6'8".
showed us. 6'8".
I got
Jesus
pictures.
Christ.
I got to take a picture with my son, and I just can't wait to the day where, like, I'm gonna bring him up into baseball and let him enjoy himself, and then him look back at that picture and be like, "Wow, that was cool."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. All right. So we got to go from a high note and a great story to a rather sad story, but we had to bring this up because this happened just a few days ago. But
What happened last week before the show?
yeah.
But yeah.
Former wide receiver, San Diego Charger, Tampa Bay Buccaneer, Vincent Jackson, unfortunately was found dead in his, I guess, in a hotel room in Tampa Bay. This is a guy that I had hoped would be a Raven at one point, just because he embodied that, like, Anquan Bolden type play, right? He was that big physical wide receiver that go up and catch it,
That put the work in.
He was just a very, very good, great player. But then everything that you hear about him off the field, I mean, he won the Walter Payton Award, I think, or he was the nominee for his team at least like two or three times.
Yeah.
Just an all around good guy. It's a tragic story. I mean, I haven't heard the details yet. I don't know if they've confirmed if it's a suicide or if they've confirmed it was,
I personally haven't seen anything. It kind of like quieted down a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the story is. But I mean, like you said, this guy was around. He played 12 seasons. He last played in 2016, according to, this is all per Greg Allman. Played in 2016, was an early mentor for Mike Evans.
Yeah.
Right? From 2014 to 2016.
Makes sense. They're similar.
Right? In 5 years in Tampa, he won Man of the Year honors for the 4 times, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
12 seasons in the league. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler, 540 receptions. He was 920 yards shy of 10,000 career yards.
Yeah.
Right? Big number there. 57 career touchdowns. Just a really great athlete, really great player. Everything you heard was he was also active in the community. When Tampa brought him on, they liked his work ethic on and off the field, which is why he wound up, being nominated as their Player of the Year and Man of the Year. So sad news there. I'm sure we'll hear more that'll come out over the coming weeks as they do.
He had an alcohol problem too. He drank a lot.
Yeah. Well, thoughts and prayers with his family and friends. Wanted to make sure we at least brought that up.
Yeah. From that sad news to really weird, crazy-ish news in Deion Sanders, right?
This was a weird fucking thing.
We're gonna unmute you for this one now.
You're,
Okay,
you're off detention. In-house
first
suspension.
of all, he makes his coaching debut for Jackson State, which is a Division I school. He made it as their head coach. He gets the first win in a fucking blowout.
Unbelievable.
53-0, but it was versus an NAIA Division I team. It's a little bit different class of football here, so it's a little bit different, but he gets the win. But the story of the game is the fact that his items were stolen.
The press conference was epic.
Yeah, it completely went away from the game, and it all became about him and his belongings being stolen and it being a big issue. And then there was a tweet out that said that no, his belongings weren't stolen. That
Somebody
they were
on the staff moved them.
They were misplaced, and then he came back and said, "Nah, somebody saw the guy stole them and caught him red-handed." It became this whole mess of a situation on social media, which was what social media provides. It's just that it takes anything and makes a mess of a situation. Well, that's what it did.
Yeah.
You got to look into what primes we're going to bring here, though. It's going to be exciting, and he's going to get kids to go there.
Oh, hell yeah.
But it's going to be a mess. Whenever anything,
There's
he's
certain
a show.
Exactly. And
He's
there's
a
certain
show.
things like
His
this,
name's
though.
Time for a reason.
These are certain things like this that don't, especially when you're trying to build a program up, that don't need to become public knowledge. Keep this shit in-house, work it out, and figure things out like internally. It doesn't need to be public knowledge because all that does is paint a bad picture of the university.
If it
His
gets
whole
leaked
press
later, it's
conference-
one. Yeah, if it gets leaked later,
his
it's one
whole
thing.
press conference was supposed to be a staff meeting. Like,
Right.
He was talking about how this is why I'm here to improve the program, not only the players, but the staff, the security, the janitors. We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard of care. Yeah, that's the staff meeting, bro. That's not the press conference.
Right.
Like, this is exactly what you should have said tomorrow morning.
Right.
Like, right now, you smile and you nod at the cameras and talk about how honored you are to have your first win as a coach. And then you go cuss
53 to
somebody off.
nothing. 53 to nothing you won.
And then you turn around and you say, "We're elevating the program." That's how you leave it. If you want to talk about the president, we're elevating our program. You don't make it about.
There's
you,
a
but
lot
that's-
of problems here, but we're walking through it. And then
Exactly.
you let them go.
Not everything is sunshine and roses right now, but we're handling it.
Yeah.
And just move on.
But it's fucking Deion. It's prime
This is a
time.
multi-millionaire Deion Sanders. Like,
I 100% believe it.
I'm
was stolen.
sorry you're going to have to call your credit card companies and cancel your credit cards. I'm sorry that you probably lost $2,000 in watches or whatever the fuck it was. It didn't need to be public
Thank
knowledge.
God I had my necklaces on.
Yeah, I
That's
didn't
what
want
he
to
said.
lose that
Thank God I had my
$10,000.
necklaces on.
Yeah, right. Just get out
get
of
the
here.
fuck
with
out
that
of
shit.
here.
I 100% believe it was stolen. Their PR team is who said it wasn't stolen. And he then went against his own PR team and said it was. So it's going to be a really entertaining. He's going to be all over ESPN, which will help Jackson State in the short term. In the long run, it's going to be a disaster.
Don't wear your jewelry.
Yeah, right. So speaking of entertaining, I don't know if you guys saw this or not. Did you see the clip with Cam Newton and the kid?
You
and his-
ass.
Oh, wait. Don't you mean what? Oh shit! Now I lost the.
You're
fucking
going to be
joke.
poor.
No, I lost the fucking joke.
Cam Newton.
Who's the guy that goes, "I'm rich, bitch"?
I'm rich, bitch. Meh, meh. Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle. Yeah, the whole thing.
Oh my god.
Cam Newton
gotta be poor.
holds his football camp, 7 versus 7 football camp, And, he's got one of these like hotshot fucking kids out there that's, talking a little trash to him.
He was talking a lot of smack.
Yeah, he's talking a lot of smack. He probably shouldn't have. It was pretty
all.
it's pretty disrespectful from his age. But listen, Cam Newton didn't have to come back with the bullshit that he said either. It was a little immature on Cam Newton's side too. Now, granted, he eventually wrapped that up and cleaned it up and apologized and had a whole heart-to-heart with the kid, with the coach there and all that. But the whole, I'm rich.
Did you read
what
that?
What the fuck?
Did you read his statements?
I heard it. I saw the video.
Well, no, that's the problem.
He put out a statement afterwards that was done in Apple Notes.
Yes.
That then he put on his Instagram.
No, that was the
Twitter.
kid.
No. The kid did a separate one.
Oh.
Cam also put one out.
I didn't see
And
that.
in this hieroglyphic
It was a
font,
horrible
the
font.
weirdest font you've ever seen in your life. So that,
It was a Cam Newton font.
The words, the font dressed like Cam Newton does, and the words were fine. But 80% of people were commenting I couldn't get through the first sentence. Who types in that font?
Right.
So it's like you still got to make everything a show.
Yeah. But the kid was completely in the
Completely in the
wrong.
wrong, but
You're
so is
at a
Cam.
camp. Cam doesn't have to do these camps. He's doing this camp, and the kid didn't need to be so disrespectful.
And
That's
but
you
I
ass.
agree with you. I agree with you. But Cam needs to be the better person here.
I agree with that.
And not be a response. I'm rich, bitch.
I know.
I'm rich.
I
I'm
agree.
rich.
Where you're
you
doing-
look like a fucking idiot.
And what's so sad about this whole thing is right after that incident, I watched this Cam Newton interview. So
You were telling me about that.
So there's a podcast out there. I think it's called The Athlete or Athlete. And it's a podcast with Brandon Marshall, Chad Johnson, and Fred Taylor, former running back. And it's the three of them, and they brought in Cam Newton. And you really got to see a different side of Cam, an uncensored, very, candid responses and open conversation that he had, all about mainly his experience in New England last year and what went right, what didn't. He wasn't one to point fingers at anybody. He was one that took a lot of ownership on stuff. All the glitz and glam that you see Cam, with the fancy hats and the outfits and bullshit that he wears, he does that shit for a reason. And in this interview, you get to see a little bit about why he does those things. And it painted Cam in a much better light. But then you have this fucking type of reaction. You're like, but this is what people see. They don't see this interview. This is what makes the news. It's the dumb shit that you do.
It's your interviews where you're dressed like an idiot and you're just after a game, you don't give a shit. And then you do this with a kid. And instead of saying, man, why don't you show me on the field? Why don't you show me on the field? That's fine.
Drew says, Aaron Hernandez is a misunderstood guy, according to Cam.
Yeah.
He was a misunderstood guy, according to everybody on that chat, in that podcast, because everybody, it was Cam Newton, and who was it? Was it Brandon? No, it wasn't Brandon Marshall.
Brandon Marshall's the one that's in charge of that, I think.
No, I know, but somebody else had close relations with Aaron Hernandez personally, and
How close?
I don't know. Obviously, that
Were they jail lovers too?
Well, the other thing about the
This
Cam
lovers.
situation, I don't know if you saw it come out today on ESPN, was that Bill Belichick.
Fred Taylor was it, because Fred Taylor was the running back at Florida.
Bill
Sorry.
Belichick came out and basically said that about Cam. He was like, Cam's a misunderstood guy.
That's why you misunderstand it. But Cam's problem with his argument was they were arguing like they were on the same level. And also, Cam rolled back what he said with his statement, saying that I was asking him where his daddy was so that I could have a conversation with an adult. No,
you were saying
you
don't have any money
have
for your
a
kid.
father. That was what you were saying.
Yeah.
You were calling him out saying you don't have a daddy, and that's why you're acting like this, which is a real bad thing to be throwing around in this conversation.
And he could have very easily pulled this kid aside. So, got to talk about. We didn't talk about it last week, obviously. So the Daytona 500, 20 years since Dale Earnhardt, the Intimidator, passing. I think they did a real great job of honoring him this year. They kind of do it every year where they throw up the 3, on the third lap. But this year, I think it just took it to another level. I kind of get choked up just talking about it. The Darrell Waltrip story.
Yeah.
That they did. And I'm not the most
Hard to
avid
believe
of
that was 20 years
Right,
ago.
I know.
Godly.
feel
Yep.
old, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but this is the Darrell Waltrip story. It got me. Like I will be the first one to admit I cried during that.
Yeah.
Because,
So did the Kyle Petty story.
Yes. just the way that they presented it, Waltrip's recount of it, it puts you in that, like, you know what he meant to the sport. You know how he was. So I think it just really comes to a great piece. But it also, you know, was a catalyst. Unfortunately, his death was a catalyst for NASCAR. You know,
and that's kind of what Kyle Petty was talking about, because Kyle Petty lost his son to the exact same car wreck just a couple of weeks or months prior to Dale Earnhardt. And that's when Petty and everybody really started to like focus in on this Hans device. And people started wearing the Hans device, but most of the drivers rejected it because it wasn't comfortable. They just didn't like it. NASCAR didn't do anything to mandate it. It was an optional thing. It was another thing that they were offering as a protective service from deaths like that, right? But even Kyle alluded to, it took Dale Earnhardt, a living legend, to pass for NASCAR and everybody to really wake up to it and be like, this is mandatory.
Well,
this needs to happen. And ever since then, this is 20 years now.
Yeah.
Not one death. There was a string there right before Dale Earnhardt's death. There were 5-6 deaths
in a matter of 7-8 years. Yeah.
Not even that. In a matter of a couple of years that were all the same in result of the same accident. Since that Hans device, 20 years later, not a single one.
Yeah, but it almost happened last year.
But it didn't.
But it didn't.
I'm saying
that goes to show.
But that's what the point is. That's where I was kind of alluding to. The situation with Ryan Newman, you know, everybody jumped to the Newman bar, right? I think that's what they're calling it, because it's the bar that he wanted put in after one of his crashes to give him extra protection. They credited it with that. After investigation, it was the combination of the Newman bar and the Hans device that saved Ryan Newman's
100%.
life.
100%.
Right.
He does not walk out of that hospital without that Hans device.
I think the next day he was out. Did he have
It was within 2 days.
It was a couple days, and he was out walking with his daughters. You saw the picture as
as they're walking out of the hospital.
And not to get off the NASCAR, but did you hear what Michael Jordan said to Bubba Wallace?
Oh yeah, we're done. You're going to run at the front of the pack. We're done. We're done losing.
We're done losing.
Yeah, I love that.
He's like, I don't accept losing.
And if that's coming from Michael Jordan, that means something.
You're listening.
That's not just your average Joe saying, hey, I'm done with losing.
I'm not paying you just
Michael Jordan puts his mind to something.
Right. Well, it's him and Denny Hamlin.
He expects
it. You know, it's both of them. Denny Hamlin's been a pretty successful driver.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, they're trying to elevate Bubba, which is great.
Speaking of success.
Well, so I did want to mention Michael McDowell did win in the Daytona 500 on
First
the
win.
final lap. Yeah. With a crazy ass wreck at the end.
Two teammates.
Yeah.
That's basically a yearly event at Daytona. The last lap, same thing. That's when Dale Earnhardt died. Was the last lap at Daytona.
Yeah,
that's when everybody gets chaotic, start making moves that they shouldn't be making, and bad things happen.
And we got sticking with Daytona for a quick second as the last topic here. Daytona road courses were won by a raw rookie. And what I mean by that is Tyler Gibbs. And yes, I said Gibbs.
Yeah, it's a familiar name.
Grandson,
for us old folk.
Grandson of Joe Gibbs. He wins Saturday's Xfinity race. And get this, it was his first ever NASCAR race.
Joe Gibbs racing is legit. And they have always been legit since he's come over from football.
He wouldn't have put his grandson in that car if he didn't think his grandson could win.
No.
Period. Simple as that. And then on Sunday, the Cup race. Second-year driver Christopher Bell sneaks by Joey Logano to get the win. Last year he was racing for, I think it was JRG Racing, but he was lent out to JRG by Joe Gibbs.
Joe Gibbs Racing. Yep.
So 2 wins, 1 weekend, road courses. Safe to say, so far this year, Joe Gibbs has got a winning team.
Pretty impressive.
No rules. No boundaries. 2 topics. 30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning. Fred, you're slacking on the fans and not giving us a double gang sign this
I feel like if I'm throwing up gang signs, it gives people the wrong idea.
Yeah, nobody's intimidated when Scott does it.
No.
Screw you guys. I'm not coming back next week.
Need more facial hair.
All right, it's time for the 2-minute warning. Ryan, what do we got?
All right, with the announcement of the 2020 Hall of Fame inductees, ceremony will be held in July at a fanless ceremony. Some Yankees fans are excited that they don't get to see Derek Jeter get inducted. Your thoughts?
I think you mean some O's fans are happy Yankees
That
fans.
Yankees fans don't get to see him inducted.
Okay.
See Jeter inducted.
And wait for it. I think it's the ultimate smack in the face for Yankee fans. But, listen, I'm not one to disrespect Derek Jeter and all the accomplishments he made. Like, as much as we hate the Yankees as Oriole fans, I respect the hell out of Derek Jeter's game and what he did for Major League Baseball. It sucks that he's getting inducted during these times, but it is kind of what it is. But I would never rub it in his face or anybody's face for not having fans there.
Yeah, I mean, they held it off last year because of COVID in hopes that it would come back this year. And this year, they just kind of made the decision like we can't just hold off the 2019 class until 2022 or 2023, whenever the hell we get to do this again. So I get it. Honestly, I think it sucks. I think it sucks for the Yankees fan. Like you said, I think you summed it up really well. I hate the Yankees, but I respect the fuck out of Derek Jeter.
Do you think Tom Brady disrespected the Lombardi Trophy when he passed it over to the boat next boat?
Absolutely not. Let me ask you a question. How many Super Bowl wins does Tom Brady have at this point? 7?
7.
The Vince Lombardi Trophy is going to be the Tom Brady Trophy at some point. Like, that's how good Tom Brady can do whatever the fuck he wants with the Lombardi Trophy. If he wants to throw it from boat to boat, no, it's not a disrespect thing.
I get it. Like, I agree with you. I agree with you. First off, I get the person's thing of like they're just taking this thing that time and effort was put into crafting these Lombardi trophies. This isn't something that you just pop in a mold.
Right.
And these are actually handcrafted every single year. So
Rob Gronkowski swung it like a baseball bat and hit a baseball with it. Remember, he put a dent in one.
Yes, but I think the other thing is he also didn't almost lose it in the fucking Tampa Bay, right? Like that's the difference.
Can you imagine if they had to pay security to sit there to make sure scuba divers did not go steal it before they could get it back?
I would have loved to have seen a drunk Tom Brady dive into the water going to look for the Vince
I don't think he would
Lombardi.
have come back up.
It would have been absolutely fucking hilarious, man. All right, Scott. Sign us out of here, man. Good show.
Well, good show, gentlemen. Good show. Stay tuned for the After Hours. Garnett, I know you're still out there, buddy. Give us a minute, and then you can call in. Make sure you also check us out on our website, www.birdlandbs.com. We got all of our episodes there. You can learn about each of us. You can contact us. Latest episode of Shell and Tell is up, so you guys can go check that out there. Get yourself some Birdland BS gear. I'm the only one that ever fucking supports this place.
I got it all over my car and everywhere else.
We're gonna wrap your car. That's what we're gonna do.
Sounds awesome.
I might have a work
awesome.
truck that we can wrap here soon.
There we go. Make sure you also check us out, bigplay.com and also birdlandsports.com. If you want to have your opinion topic heard on the show, just add us. At Birdland BS is how you find us on all of our social media pages. Comment, like, subscribe, everything. Leave us those comments. Send us a message. I know that Craig Zero has been doing it a lot, sending us some messages, so we'll talk about that at the After Hours, Craig, if you're still listening. Also, make sure you check out the audio version of our podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen. Go check it out. If we're not on your app, at us and tell us so that we can try to get it on that app. We're trying to be on all platforms here, so make sure you do that. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back next Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. You guys know where to find us. For Fred, myself, Ryan, James, and COVID-bound Drew, we'll see you guys next week.
See ya. It's time for the after party.
It's that last call for alcohol, Garnett. Give us a call, buddy.
Give us a call on the hotline.
It's my first day as a full-time associate, sir. I just got off for all Tuesdays. This is my very first full-time Birdland BS associate. I'll just put a little giddy.
Act like you've been here before, Ryan.
I'm trying.
We might put you on coaching.
Coaching action.
Coaching action.
My first day, I got to write up. Shit, PRN is so much easier.
You have to speak to HR.
All right, I think we got Garnett. Garnett, can you hear us, buddy?
Loud and clear. How about you guys? How you guys doing tonight?
Good, man. How about yourself?
Doing, man. Good.
Yeah, doing phenomenal. Shoot. Perfect timing, man. Perfect timing.
It's been a while since we talked, man, so we got a lot of shit to catch up on. I know you've kind of been itching at the gun to talk a little bit about the Ravens wide receiver core. I know you had sent me some messages earlier today. What's your thought process on the wide receiver core right now? Did you hear what we talked about with the Willie Snead situation and the number one wide receiver and all that?
Absolutely. And I totally agree on some areas what you guys say. You guys hit it right on the nail when it comes to just characteristic-wise of certain people. Some people, like, so like this, we're all on a basketball team, but let's just say Scott is the most gifted one. Like, he's the LeBron, and we're all like just, I'm going to say Kwame Brown, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you
mean?
recognizing talent. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, man. But, there's always that one guy that just sticks out from the rest. The first guy to get off the bus guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, all right, you have a nice day. So, when it comes to that situation, it's just, really, I understand what you were saying, but at the same time, though, like, we can't have that let's be real moment at the same time. I respect him, and I let him just have his peace. It's one of those situations. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. No, I respect him 100%. I always respect Willie Snead, and I don't have any qualms with him speaking his mind. I actually wish players would speak their mind more. I encourage it. My problem is again, the comment that he made. To me, I took it as any wide receiver can be a number one wide receiver if they're given the opportunities, and that's just not true. Yes, you can force feed the ball to any wide receiver, and by definition, they're the number one wide receiver because they got more targets. But if you're going by my definition of a true number one wide receiver, that's the total package, right? That's the guys that create separation. That's the guys that use their physicality. They win those 50-50 balls in the air. They maximize their opportunities. They don't just get opportunities. They take, and they're doing it against the best cornerbacks. They're doing it against double coverage. Those are the true number one wide receivers. Not anybody can be that mold.
I.e. Rashad Perryman.
Right.
Ooh, yeah. So we still have the full house with Drew and everybody. Or I want everybody's opinion when I ask this question. Fred, we talked about it a little briefly.
Yeah.
But I want to get everybody's opinion before I go in and
You got everybody but Drew.
Yeah, Drew's here, but he's in the chat room. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So cool. So
and he does not have COVID. He wants everyone to know.
He doesn't. We just gave him shit.
Yeah. So when people all on Twitter today, I think I was in a conversation with Adam, Adam B. Moore, that's what goes off for his little tag. So, and I'm in the multiple DM messages, just talking to people, and it just hit me every time that we talk about receivers every year, we do this every year, man. And I think that's what really just triggered me to actually, I'm gonna sit down and really think about this in my head. Okay, when you hear the word high ceiling potential receiver, what does that mean to you guys?
So to me, floor means the base that you can expect out of somebody, your bottom line expectation is for somebody. Ceiling is what you're seeing on their potential growth, where you could see them develop in the right system, in the right fit, with the right quarterback, where they could get to, but they're not there yet.
Absolutely. So example probably was we'll just say we were talking about DK Metcalf all night.
Yeah.
DK Metcalf first season was pretty damn good. When he at the stretch he 180 yards in that playoff game.
Right. His
first one or second one blew up. And he just stayed consistent the following year. So he was the definition of a ceiling. Well, the pinnacles of high ceiling. Correct.
Yeah.
I think he's got a pretty high ceiling.
Okay, so before I move on to the next, have you guys did any other than I know Fred Rashad Bateman?
Yeah.
But is there any other life receivers you guys like in this draft? Other than the first three, the definite three. Is there anybody in particular you guys like?
It's full transparency. I haven't dove deep enough into the draft prospects to look at wide receivers later in the draft. I'm just looking at top 27. If we're looking at the 27th overall pick, who would I want to see the Ravens spend a draft pick on at number 27? Right. And I think Rashad Bateman would be the best fit there. Obviously, we know the Waddles. We know all the top wide receivers that aren't going to be there at 27. Outside of Bateman, I don't see anybody on my radar that I'm wasting a number 27 pick on. I think there are, and everything that I've read, there's definitely talent that you can find in the second, third, fourth, fifth rounds. Like, there are some good value guys out there. Just like I said, full transparency, I haven't dove deep enough into the prospects to see what those guys are.
All right, so Scott, you got anything?
I think for me, same kind of thing. I haven't dug deep enough, but when it comes down to it, right, a guy that you're going to get early in the draft, it needs to be impactful, and they need to be impactful right away. And there's not many guys out there. I think the reason we all pulled DK is what he was able to put up and what he's been able to do in that offense, giving that they're Russell Wilson has admitted it himself and been out there and been vocal about it that he doesn't have an offensive line to protect him, right? So he's been able to put up those numbers. Imagine what he can do is if he has time to get down the field, has time to create more separation and more space, right? So I think that's what we're looking at is we got to have guys. Yes, I get the statement. It's kind of like the statement any given team on any given Sunday, right?
Right.
Anybody, if you're going to make it a blanket statement like that, sure, to an extent. But there's guys that put in way more work. There's guys that have more raw natural talent, right? It takes route running. It takes the separation. It takes the speed. It takes the physicality. It takes all these things. So to say that anybody can be a number one, I'm not sure that that's the case, because if that were the case, every team would have a true number one. And we've seen many teams over the past 3 to 5 years that don't have a true number one wide receiver and stay competitive, but just can't get over that hump. It's not just the Ravens. It's across the board with the NFL.
Absolutely.
So to give you a little bit more ammo there, Garnett, Drew did chime in. He says Terrace Marshall Jr. is somebody that he's got on his radar. Nick Short says we need a big name receiver because we got to win now. And this is the kind of opinion of a lot of fans out there. And I tend to agree. Like, unfortunately, because of our draft history, we never do well with drafting wide receivers. We haven't hit well with drafting wide receivers. And we are on a small window of win now with the amount of talent that we have. I'm personally am more of the advocate of bringing somebody in that we know how they fit and
a proven commodity.
Exactly. A proven commodity that would fit in this system, because again, like I said earlier, the Allen Robinsons of the world are out of the question. Yes, it's the dream name. It would be the great fit, but just because of the money, I don't see that happening, right? So you got to look at what kind of veterans out there are going to be released. Obviously there's going to be some big names that are going to be released because of the cap situations. I feel like evaluating that talent for the situation that we're in right now, win now, I think is smarter than maybe spending some of your draft capital on wide receivers where there's a lot of swings and misses.
And James wants to chime in here before you go, Garnett.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say I think DK exceeded his ceiling because no one expected him because he didn't go up higher because apparently he had bad hands,
bad routes.
Yeah. So
he proved everybody wrong with that.
But also, do you think he's a number one, or I think Russell just makes certain games number one players? Like you got Lockett, some games he's number one, and then you got Metcalf that's number one. So every team is different compared to Green Bay. Adams, he's the number one, and he can find a way to get the ball even if he's double covered.
DK Metcalf for me right now, I told you there's about 10 wide receivers that I would classify as true number one receivers in the NFL. I'd say about 10. Yep. he's at the bottom of that list, but he is in that 10 for me.
Yeah, I think the thing with him, and you bring up Lockett, the difference is Lockett got those because DK Metcalf was covered, right? Because Russell Wilson didn't have the time. Lockett
is the definition of boomer bust.
Right. I saw it in fantasy this year. I had him in freaking fantasy.
Like I said,
it was either one way or another. But that's because DK is such a threat. So I think it's something that's there.
I think the best pickup free agent, I don't think we discussed it, would be Terrell Williams. He got cut by the Raiders because he had an injury. I think he's a 6'4", big wide receiver. Probably going to be cheap money, and you can just give him a one-time
We've
deal.
got that, though, in Miles Boykin. We've got that. I don't see him as being much of an improvement over Miles Boykin.
I think he is.
Let Garnett finish up his point here.
Wait. No, I want to hear what James is going to say, because James is actually – what he was going to say about Miles Boykin?
No, it was me that was saying about Miles Boykin.
Oh, no, I thought he was going to continue saying something about Miles, because I was saying this. I talked to Fred about it. Yeah. So how do y'all feel about? So would you classify Miles Boykin as that? Potentially a high ceiling player, right? Because he hasn't reached what he has. What he's supposed to reach.
I think that there's still potential out there. I think Miles Boykin in another system has more success.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that he's in the wrong system for the talent that he has.
I think
and that's not saying that, like, again, just because he's 6'4" and 220 pounds doesn't equate to the right physical. Yes, he checks all the boxes as far as size.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that it's going to equate into what we need in that red zone target, into the move the chains guy, into that 50-50 ball kind of guy. That's not Miles Boykin. It hasn't been.
So let me ask you a question then, right? What is Miles Boykin?
I think
that's my point. That's my point.
We don't know.
Because we don't know. And so yes, I agree with you. His ceiling is high. There's two aspects to a guy's ceiling. There's what you think his potential could be, and there's what you think his potential will be. Miles Boykin, if he keeps on the track that he's on, he's not going to reach the ceiling that we think he could be. He's going to reach the ceiling that we think he will be.
Let me ask you this, and I'm asking this to you, Garnett.
Yes, sir.
Swap Miles Boykin and Chance Claypool out. Does Miles Boykin have the same success in Pittsburgh that Claypool has?
I would think, he would have the same success as Claypool would have. That's my opinion. So here's Scott and James. I want you guys to listen to what I'm about to say. So, is it fair that we judge Miles Boykin to the average NFL standard of a receiver? Is it fair? I understand he made a couple mistakes and he wasn't on the same page with obviously LeBron did. Wow, with Lamar Jackson, he wasn't on the same page with him. But is it fair that we grade him just like every receiver that is graded in the NFL, knowing that he's in a system that doesn't work in his favor, a la only getting 2 targets a game in the first quarter, and then after that he disappears.
So the factor that we don't know in this is what happens in practice, right? Like what is the chemistry level between Lamar and Miles Boykin in practice? What kind of work are they putting in together? We saw all the shit that he was doing with Hollywood Brown in the offseason down in Florida and all that stuff. And we saw Miles Boykin running routes in a parking lot with fucking RG3. Justice Hill and RG3 and doing some stuff. But we never really saw Miles Boykin doing that work with Lamar. And we don't know, we're not privy to the information as to what they're doing in practice together. Right. That's where it starts. Before it happens on the field, it's got to start in practice.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going to go to your question there, Garnett, is that I think, when you have a guy like him that had the drops early, a young quarterback like Lamar can very quickly lose faith and not look your way. So, yes, there were times that people can point out all the fuck they want that Miles Boykin was wide open in the end zone or wide open on the sideline. But if you, as a quarterback, if your quarterback doesn't have faith in that guy because, God, I've thrown to him and he barely catches the ball in practice, he can't catch it in the game, I'm not looking his way as much, right?
Right.
If you don't think there's human behavior, that's the element that comes into play here. And I tell you what, not only does that play a factor in Lamar, but it plays a factor in Miles, right? And here's the telling piece. How does Miles this coming year react? This is going to be the key cog as far as how where he's successful at, whether he goes up higher above what I feel his ceiling is going to be now versus what I think it could have been. It's how he responds. Because if he comes back and he has the drop issues, I hate to say it, and it's a curse word, and people can yell at me, but I'm starting. I'm not fully making it, but I'm starting to kind of go, do we have another Brashad Perryman on our hands? I know it's a different situation, but it's a big body wide receiver that can't catch the fucking ball, right?
All right. So I just want to jump in right here. So here's the thing. So like I said, we're grading him, or we're critiquing him. Now I'm not trying to defend him because like I said, he made his mistakes, made his drop. He wasn't on the same connection with Lamar. Media, it got exposed to me. All the things, right? So. All I'm saying is when it comes to because I'm trying to get down to the point when it comes to looking at receivers in the draft, and also how you got anyway. So hold on to when it comes to Miles Boykin getting 2 targets a game. Perfect example, Hollywood. Hollywood was in a slump in the middle of the season. Yeah, everybody knew it. We were all like, "Oh no, man, I think he's done." And then all of a sudden, playoff Hollywood comes out. The difference between Hollywood and Boykin's slump, Hollywood got the targets to go his way. And to be honest with you, if we're judging Boykin's drops, I would like to say Hollywood had more drops than Boykin. Who was? I know he's a first round pick. I get it, but at the same time, though, he was afforded he had a chance to redeem himself. So it's one of those things where go ahead.
But that kind of goes to what I'm saying, Garnett, is it comes down to the relationship between your quarterback and your wide receiver. Lamar didn't have the faith in him. That's why they didn't go his way, because he didn't have the faith. In my opinion, I could be 100% wrong. They could be as tight as
and that's what Lamar. I'm talking about. We're not privy to the practice, right? So if he is giving Miles reps in practice and Miles isn't doing anything with those reps in practice, it's not going to translate. He's not going to look to his way in the game.
Yeah, it's not going to transpire in the game.
There's just so many. Yeah, there's so many factors that are there, and I get exactly what you're saying. With Hollywood's getting more reps, but with think about this, right? Hollywood may have had more drops, but how much more did Hollywood do with the targets that he did catch and the receptions that he did have? How much more did he do with those receptions than Miles Boykin did with the ones that he got? This kind of goes back to what Fred was saying, though, is you gotta make the most of what's given to you. That's how you develop.
And that's how you determine who's a bona fide number one, number two. So that's why I say I agree with you when it comes to the whole Willie Steves part. But what I'm getting at with the Miles Boykin issue is that the fact that he never think about this. We heard on the show a couple of times. We used to talk about how Claypool is basically damn near the same guy with
stature wise, right?
Stature wise, everything.
Yep.
I literally followed him when he was at Notre Dame, both of them, but in particularly Boykin. He was literally Torrey Smith 2.0, a bigger, faster Torrey Smith 2.0. If he was literally just 9-ball, go get it, you track it, go get it.
Right.
And if you didn't get it, it was an OPI. Now, we've seen small bits and pieces in his rookie year. He got opportunities to do that. Second year, we rarely saw that. So it's one of the things where, like I said, so it comes back to what I said with the draft. Perfect example. People are really high on Tyler Wallace and Sage Rock. They're not fast. They're adequate. They're 50-50 ball. When you hear contested catch, you already know. Well, that means he ain't getting separation. Probably not he's an average route runner. Yada yada yada. Mm-hmm. And then people look at a highlight tape and then they just assume, oh well, shoot, he will fit perfectly in our offense. We need somebody like that. Well, we got those guys on the roster. We got those guys on the roster, but we're not using them in that way. So what makes you think that guy we're going to get is going to be that guy? So It's almost like a process of elimination. Like, well, that receiver's nice, but I know for a fact we're not going to use him like that. So let's mark him off the list. So go ahead.
So this brings up a good point, and this I actually got into some conversation on Twitter today about a potential free agent. So the Eagles are potentially releasing Alshon Jeffrey, right? And if you look at stature, size, Miles Boykin, Alshon Jeffrey, similar, right? I know Alshon Jeffrey's got the injury history, so I get that.
Right.
But I think somebody like him, for a situational type receiver, the red zone threat, the move the chains kind of guy, if you can get him on a budget-friendly deal and you get him on that low risk, high reward, he stays healthy, I think he's an immediate upgrade over Miles Boykin. And that gets rid of those question marks of, is it a chemistry issue between Miles and Lamar or whatever? It gives him a proven veteran, which is what Dez Bryant was supposed to be, which is why I was so frustrated they didn't use Dez Bryant more, especially after we saw the practice videos of him doing things and running the routes that he was running and the connection that him and Lamar had in practice, the film that we were never supposed to see but did. I think Alshon Jeffrey could potentially be a target because, again, we're not going to see the Kenny Galladays. We're not going to see the Allen Robinsons. We're not going to be able to afford those guys, but we need to win now, and we need to improve. Yeah. We need to improve.
Yeah. I completely agree with you on that part, but like I don't think Alshon Jeffrey, if there was Chicago Bears Alshon Jeffrey, I'm all about it, but I don't think I understand the body size, but the contested catching and all those things. But if we didn't use, hopefully this is crazy. I don't know if you call it. Y'all guys probably caught on to this. Anytime we get shown flaws or the media shows flaws, or I'll say perfect example, Hollywood comes out on the Soldier tweet happens.
Right.
What happens right after that? We start giving him multiple targets. Oh, he had a bad stream of he was in the funk, then he gets out the funk. I'm trying to think. The whole Miles Boykin and Lamar Jackson, they was on the page. David Culley comes out. Next thing you know, Hollywood, they start trying to force feed Boykin the ball. That connection was even horrible than what it was described to be. It's crazy that we try to, as soon as something comes out, we try to adjust to what the media sees. Y'all ever notice that?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
And it is one of those things where I feel like, to be honest with you, people can look at it in so many different ways. But I think what Dez did, I'm glad he did it. Like it's one of those things. Yeah, how you talk about how players speaking out. Yeah. I'm glad he did that because it's one of those things where it's gonna like, holy crap. Well, shoot. I guess we do need to adjust. You know what I mean?
Right. All it does is add validity to everybody's fears and everybody's like problems with this team. That if we feel this way and the players confirm that they feel this way, there's a problem.
And if you think back, like we're talking about Willie Snead speaking out now, right? Willie Snead was the one that spoke out last year.
Yeah.
Right. He spoke out last year that he was, that this isn't what he wasn't there to block. All that stuff. It comes out and it comes out, but the problem is when you get that diva type mentality, it starts to become an issue, and your quarterback starts to question himself. And I'll tell you what, I don't want Lamar Jackson questioning himself, because when he questions himself is when he winds up throwing more than he actually should. He doesn't. We saw it this year. How many times did you and I, Fred, talk about it after the game where there was a hole, but he didn't run through it because he was looking for the open man to try to prove that he can throw the ball.
And that's part of the media problem, is that the media narrative is that, he can't throw from the pocket. He can't do all these things. So there were times where he wasn't, especially in the middle part of the year, prior to them going on that run, where he was trying to force the narrative, and prove to everybody that he could do this thing, and he wasn't taking what the defense was giving him. Your God-given gift are your legs. Yes, you can throw the football too, but your God-given gift that makes you different than every other quarterback out there is your athleticism and your legs. When the defense gives it to you, fucking take it.
I think that's where Greg Roman, comes in, and I think that's the issue that I have with Greg Roman is Greg Roman hasn't empowered his quarterback. Right? He has at times, but when the pressure comes on, it's dude, do what you do best, right? If there's a hole, take it. right? Because you're going to get more yards there than you're going to have more guaranteed, we'll call them guaranteed yards in that situation than you would trying to look for the ball and maybe throwing an interception, maybe throwing it downfield and out of play, whatever it may be. It's your legs are of greater value than your arm, and you have to recognize that. But it has to be designed in a way, and this is where I agree with Willie to an extent. We have to get a balance. There has to be the ability to have that threat. I think that's why we as fans are calling for a number one, is that that puts us, there's no excuses. If we have an Allen Robinson, if we have a Kenny Galladay, anybody like that, there's no excuses for Greg Roman anymore. There's no excuses for Lamar
I agree with
anymore.
that, but it's easier said than done because of the cap
Oh,
restraints.
I agree. I'm just saying that's where I think a lot of the fan base is it's shut up and show me.
So we're Garnett, we're up against it. So I'm going to give you the final 2 minutes of the floor to wrap up your points and let me know if you got any questions for us.
So with the whole, like, when I think, was it James who said something about Terrence Marshall?
Yeah, James said that.
I know it was Drew, but yeah.
Drew. So all right, so Drew was Terrence Marshall. So here's the thing about Terrence Marshall. This is why I say after this conversation, hopefully whoever's listening, they just think about this. Like, what you saw him do at LSU, will that be able to, say if we did draft him, will that be able to match what we would like to do in a Patriots offense? I'm not Patriots. Oh wow, in a Ravens offense. That's the one thing that really irks me, is the fact that we get receivers, or we get people probably like this. Prochet, Duvernay, even when Miles Boykin was coming out, all three was like, oh my God, they have amazing hands coming out. Their drop rate is phenomenal. They really don't drop the ball. You know, they do this and that and this and that. And then when they get here, they barely get any snaps.
Yeah. Prochet's season was basically a waste.
A waste. So he's just on the roster just to be on the roster. And then Duvernay, we only use him for speed sweeps, just a jet sweep. And then he caught a miracle ball on a couple plays. He caught a couple miracle balls. You know, I don't mean like, I mean, he just, he threw it, Lamar threw it up, he got it, a couple miracle balls. So when it comes to like, oh man, what we saw them do in college, are they really getting an opportunity to do what I know they're rookies, but I'm talking about the same thing for Miles Boykin. Like I said, Miles Boykin was able to stretch the field. We don't do that with him. We're telling Hayes, you're gonna be running these quick slants. You're gonna do this, but we use people hella wrong. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. Or if we don't use them at all. So that's why I said when we look at this draft, are we going to get someone that can do what we need them to do? If not, you like a Rashad Bateman, he is the perfect receiver. Lamar, if you want to build trust, you want Lamar to, to get more motivated, or what's the word I'm looking for? Just enthused. If thrown at a receiver, find somebody that can separate off the line. Bateman was hands down the best route running, winning receiver, percentage receiver coming out of college. Like I posted it on my Twitter page. If you want to look at it, you can go watch the videos. If you do a before and after shot, before you see the defender, after there's no defender. That's the best way to put it.
I listen. I agree with you. Using Duvernay and Prochet are good examples because, again, these are guys that were the number one targets at their respective college, right? And they put up the numbers that they put up, and they had all the catches that they had, and they didn't have any drops and all that stuff. Everything was good about them coming out of college. They come into an NFL offense, they got to earn that right? They got to get to that point.
It could be coaching, it could be chemistry, yeah.
I think Prochet's season was a waste outside of being a returner, and even then, as a returner, he didn't impress me. But I do think Duvernay is the slot receiver for the future. Right. I think next year he will have a bigger year. He will take over for Willie Snead. I think he'll be more productive than Willie Snead. He'll be a bigger play threat than Willie Snead ever was. I think we'll see Prochet start working into the rotation, but he'll be an earn it kind of guy. He's got to go out there and, like we talk about, maximizing opportunities. When he gets the opportunities, he's got to maximize on it. That's where Miles Boykin has missed the boat. He did get shots early on. He missed those opportunities, and for whatever reason, Lamar hasn't been able to connect with him since. And it sucks because I think Miles Boykin, like we've talked about, size-wise, makes a lot of sense for this squad, but it just hasn't worked out here. And I think he will do better things somewhere else. Whether that's as a wide receiver or whether that's converting to a tight end down the road like Darren Waller did, who the fuck knows? I don't know what Miles Boykin's future is, but I don't think his future success is here as a Raven. I think it's elsewhere. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Right. All right, man. We appreciate you calling in. Appreciate your input as always, buddy. We have to have you on again.
Anytime, man. You let me know. Anytime you want to be on, just send me a message, man. I'll get you on.
Absolutely, man. Oh, yeah. Hey, I got nothing but time after I get this ACL surgery once again on March. So at the beginning, like literally March 1st, I'm getting another one. So I got nothing but time.
Good luck with it, man. Hope everything turns out good for you. Stay in touch, man. It's been a little while since we talked, man. We'll
most definitely.
We got the off season. We got a lot of time.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll catch you later, man. See ya.
All right, God bless.
See you. You too.
All
right, man. That was a lot of fun. It's cool to get some fan perspective. You know, obviously Garnett's been with a fan of the show for a long time, since we first started, really. So for you guys out there that want to, get on the show and send your voice, put your voice out there, let us know. Send me a message. Send me a DM on Twitter. Send me a message on Facebook. Let me know. We'll set up a time and day for you guys to call in. That's what this after hours is going to be. Try to get like one person a week on to maybe ask a couple of questions, get the phone line back going again.
Yeah.
We have a lot of fun with it. We appreciate you guys tuning in.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.